Second and 5. Reverse. Back to McCart. He's got a man wide open. Shots. Score.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Max Duggan. It's to Kendre Miller. Right up the gut goes Miller. He's gone. Touchdown. 51 yards.
The Sikkim 365 Radio Friday show is brought to you by Bird Culchin Ford.
Donovan Smith stays in a quarterback. He's looking to throw right down the middle, and he's intercepted. Picked off at the 50-yard line and brought back to the 46 as Walcott gets the interception.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Bennett, slant, McConkey, touchdown.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
They pitch it forward to Corum, and he has his 14th rushing touchdown. And Michigan goes back on top.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go. Close out yet another week as we approach another weekend of football. This, of course, the first weekend in November. By the end of this month, there will be conference championship games on the table, and Army-Navy, of course, in early December, and eventually we'll know who's going to play in the semifinals. But a lot to get to over the next 4 to 5 weeks, including this weekend with the Big 12 and the top 25. And then we'll have our national picks, and you can duck when we make ours. Picks are not recommended for your bank account. Also, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Garrett Ross runs the mothership. Levi and Emery and Jack are all Jacob. They are no shows today. They just flat didn't decide it was enough for them to come to the show. Actually, they're watching and monitoring from a different location. We're going to break down Tennessee's offense and actually a story that does compare it to back in the early 2010s with Baylor RG3 and Art Briles. So let's get to what is happening today around football. And we start with the Big 12 with TCU trying to still and stay in touch with the national championship picture, trying to stay ahead of everybody in the Big 12. I saw someone brought this up to me on a direct message. Do you feel like there's any kind of a, in fact, it was brought up yesterday, any kind of a concern that this could be a trap game? I don't think they play like trap games. I'm not saying everybody doesn't get into that. I think TCU is on a mission, not because of the standings that came out. I just think that's the way they play under Sonny Dykes.
Yeah, but they have played fast and loose at times, and they have fallen behind in games, but they always manage to find a way to fight back. I just know that the loss for Tech last week was not indicative of their other losses, in that they really did stop fighting in that game for the first time all year. And I would not, if I'm going to play Tech, I would not want to play them the week after their worst loss, but I still think TCU is much better and should easily win the game, especially since they're at home and Tech has not won on the road this year. But if I'm picking a time to play Tech, it wouldn't be right after they got thumped, because of the way they've emotionally been in almost every other game this season.
I think it's a trap game in one definition and maybe not in the other. I don't think that TCU is going to be caught off guard, but I do think this is a game they could lose, if that makes sense. Yeah. I don't think it's a trap in that, like, they're just walking into this like, ho-hum, we're just going to destroy Tech and go about our business and be unbeaten. I think they're smarter than that. I mean, it's Sonny freaking Dykes. I mean, who knows better about Texas Tech than him? I mean, really. So, I don't think that he's taking Tech lightly or thinking that they're, going to get an easy W. So I don't see them being surprised, but I could see them having their hands full. I definitely think they will have their hands full for at least a portion of this game. To what extent, I don't know. And, as much as that game last week seems like it was one-sided, and it was for the most part, it was still a one-score game, basically going in the fourth quarter, right? So, it was not like, as well as Baylor played, it was not like they had just blown the doors off and, the whole second half was a coast. It was a third quarter that all of a sudden you had to get serious and try to then find a way to go win the game, and they did. They did that by, blowing out Tech in the fourth quarter 21-0. But prior to that, for as much as that felt like Baylor dominated, it took them 2 scores to basically make it a game, in the third quarter. So they'll hang around. They'll be a threat anytime their offense is on the field. I don't think this is the dominant TCU defense that just squashes people and they're going to just choke, Tech and not allow them to, score many points. I do think Tech's going to be able to light up the scoreboard a little bit, but, TCU is going to be able to do that as well. I think for Tech, the problem is they gave up a lot of explosive plays. And Baylor hit on some last week, and they do turn the ball over at a really rapid clip. And so, if they can protect the football, I think you still worry about those explosive plays with TCU because they're just so dynamic. But, to answer your question, I'm very interested by this one. I don't have, upset watch going on, but, talking about that, I would not be surprised by it, quite frankly. I do think that TCU's got to be careful tomorrow. I think they're clearly the better team. I believe they'll win, but I do think they need to be smart about how they play and not, be too loose with this one.
Lee Buttercup on the chat room just brought this up, and one of the things about the Big 12 that has been fun is there's been a couple of nice stories that have come out from teams that were thought to be perhaps the bottom half of the league. But Oklahoma's a 3.5-point favorite at home against Baylor. Texas is a 2.5-point favorite in Manhattan against Kansas State. Kansas is a 1-point favorite now against Oklahoma State, and that thing flipped. And then TCU's an 8-point favorite, which really it's a lot, but it's not a lot. And that's how close and tied in these teams are in the Big 12. And I didn't get to West Virginia and their game with Iowa State, and I think that's pretty tight as well. So it's another weekend where Lord knows what might happen.
Yeah, it's the Big 12 is the definition, and maybe by extension the Pac-12 and the middle parts of the ACC after Clemson are all the definition of why you need to expand the playoff because, you don't need to take your league out of it with 3 weeks left if they just lose one game in a good conference. Those should not be punished. So, because it is. TCU could lose this week, and if they do lose, I will think nothing different of them than I thought unless Tech beats them by 35, which isn't going to happen. So,
I partially agree with you. I don't know that they have a real national championship contender in this group, but 2 reasons why I partially agree with you. It's the most competitive and entertaining league, and I know some SEC fan or something will crow about, no, we are whatever. I'm not saying that the Big 12 has the most top-tier teams. I don't know that they have a legit 4-team playoff national championship contender. I don't know that because I don't think TCU's going unbeaten, so I don't think that they have a top 4 team. But I do think that if you win this conference, you deserve a crack at least getting a chance. If you played in the best conference, top to bottom, that was tough week in and week out, and you emerged from that and you're the champion, why shouldn't you deserve a chance at the other championship? If you played in the best league, arguably. Okay, you took a loss so you don't deserve it suddenly? No, because you went through a grinder week after week after week. You didn't have Vanderbilt on your schedule or someone like that. You didn't have a break where you played Southwestern Baptist in week 10, and I'm not saying that makes those other teams lesser. I'm just saying that you had 9 straight weeks, no breaks, all gas, no breaks, to borrow from Sark. And you emerge from that, and then you go in a title game against somebody that you already played, you deserve a shot, in my opinion. So that's why the expanded playoff, I think, makes sense. If it was just a 4-team, I don't know if the Big 12 has somebody that's deserving. TCU certainly will be if they're unbeaten. They better damn well be in that thing if they go through this meat grinder and they stay completely unscathed. But even if they weren't to, why wouldn't you want to see TCU get a crack at this thing? Because they lost in week 10 to Texas Tech by a field goal or something, so they're just off the table now. I think that's BS. And I also think that when you look at a team and I don't necessarily believe this in full, but Baylor, what if they go on a run to close the year? And they're not the best example because they've had some dumb losses, or some bad stumbles. But just saying, somebody who picks up steam along the way. What if you reel off 10 straight wins, and you are by the end of the year, you're one of the best teams in the country? Because I certainly think they're better than they were 4 weeks ago. How good they'll be 4 weeks from now, they might just go through this month and beat TCU, Texas, Oklahoma, and who am I missing? TCU, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas State. If they do that, they'd be red hot, and then go play in a Big 12 title game and they win that. I know the odds of that are very low, but they could, in theory. That would be a red.
Well, they will, though. They will, starting when they expand.
Yeah.
But you're not talking about Baylor with 3 losses this year.
No, I'm talking about the expanded playoff and why it makes sense.
Well, they will.
Because, they will eventually, but that's why it makes sense for those who say, no, we don't need more teams in the play. No, that's exactly why we need some more teams in the playoff, and that won't always be the case or the instance, but that's something you have really no chance of. Now you have a chance at that, and I think that's great because a 2-loss early in the season, no shot whatsoever. Now, yeah, it might not week in and week out mean exactly as much. It's all do or die in week number 3, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be do or die every single week, in my opinion.
Yeah,
so.
and I also think when they expand it, one of the other things that's going to happen is there's not going to be any more. I know they had this one thing where there was a 2.5, 3 week layoff, which I hate, but they need to get rid of the month-long layoff will go away. So you could, Nick Saban might have a bye to think about you, but he doesn't have 3 weeks to sit in the lab and invent things. You're going to have to respond quicker. So you have those chances that'll be different. And that's why a 3-loss team that is on a 9-game tear could very easily go in and win the thing because, man, they came together. The true freshman studs that they expected didn't hit in the first 4 games, but they hit in the last 4. And those things can all happen. So it makes the thing more organic, which is why you have a conference like the Big 12 that is a meat grinder every week. You should reward a team for only losing 1 game in that, right?
Yeah, but that's where you have to be smart and make sure you get a couple of nice national wins too. If you have those opportunities in non-conference play, but down the road, when it expands, you even have opportunities despite what maybe the Baylor loss to Brigham Young or someone else. Jacob _DS50, a $5 super chat right off the top. He's a huge Boise State fan. With Boise State's new quarterback and offensive coordinator, they have been rolling. Who do you guys have winning in the matchup, Boise State or Brigham Young?
Well, Boise State's playing a whole lot better right now than BYU is. And like you said, they're rolling, especially since Dirk Cutter came back. So I'm taking Boise State here, and I don't even have to think that much about it.
Yeah, I'm happy for our buddy Jeremiah Dickey, AD up at Boise, who was at Baylor previously, made the Andy Avalos hire. And earlier this year that, led to some people was it the right hire? And I think we discussed it briefly and maybe. I mean, you never know. You're a first-time AD making your first hire. That's not always 100% batting average. And, they got off to a rocky start. Hank Backmeyer goes into the transfer portal. Turns out that was great. That was great news because Taylon Green's way better, and they've been way better with Taylon Green, who's a Texas guy, by the way. And so, I'm going Boise State. They're on a good run right now. Seems like they've found themselves, and BYU's just a bit of a mess, man. I mean, for all that build-up and excitement and everything, and you used to imagine the way they felt after that Baylor game, and really since that game has been pretty much all downhill for them ever since that game. I mean, they turned right around and just, got beat by Oregon, which was understandable because it was on the road, and Oregon's clearly a pretty good team, but then you get after that point, and then you're like, oh, no, actually this was not just an Oregon thing, and they're just playing a good team. It's like, no, this team's got some flaws, and I think if you roll Baylor and BYU back out there again, I think you probably see a little bit of a different result. But the way that game was structured and how it was all built up, that was their early season kind of bowl game. And they were ready for it and chomping at the bit for it. And it's almost like they emptied the tank on that one, and it's now reality sort of set in. So, give me Boise in this one. Love the Cougs, but, they're struggling.
All right, we will have our picks that we do every week. I think there are 7 games that Levi puts together. We'll put those up at some point today. We'll also get into the Big 12 games that are not included, along with a couple of top 25 games that are not included. Our picks, again, are not recommended for anyone to use them for any type of gambling services. Paul, you told your relatives that.
We actually did well last week.
We all did. We've done well on the I have. Craig, I think, still has a slight lead, and you've been able to get a game back or two, but it's the other ones. It's our picks on Baylor that we've been reminded about when the picks go up.
Now people want us to pick against them.
Yeah, no, they do, and they should. Well, here's the thing. I bet a lot of people who are the Baylor fans thought they would win in Provo. We said they would. We were wrong, but so were you. Iowa State, I wasn't sold. We said Iowa State. We were wrong, and I bet most Baylor fans probably still pick the Bears because you pick your favorite team every week. Then the West Virginia game in Morgantown. We picked Baylor. We were dead wrong, and I bet most everybody else was too. Now, Oklahoma State, I'm sure there was a little bit of that green flavor from a lot of you. We picked Baylor. We were wrong, right? And we've been wrong. And then, of course, Texas Tech. If you're at home, if you love them, you're going to pick them again. And then you got right. And so we have been bad on the Baylor picks. And so, but we're on record. We're out there. We're not just like I would have thought, or you guys are terrible with your picks. And it's fun. We're playing. It's fun. But we do put our names on those picks.
I'll say this. It is not my fault that I can't put a finger on Baylor.
No, that's right.
It's their fault for not being consistent. Last year, they were so easy to pick because, for the most part, save for 2 games all year, they were consistent as hell. And now they've decided to be different every week, and I don't know what to do.
And they could be different again when they play in Norman against Oklahoma this week. So, hey, it's Texas high school football's last weekend. A little bit later in the show today at around 5 o'clock, Grady Rowe, he's the head coach at Belleville High School. I had an interview with him on my high school podcast that we have on 365 Sports. He and his thoughts and some great stories about Baylor freshman Richard Reese, who has 12 touchdowns this year. Grady Rowe on what he remembers, some stories about Richard Reese, who has started now, not including junior high, 5 consecutive years as a freshman, high school, sophomore, junior, senior, and also now as a freshman after the season got moving for Baylor. That is that. Now, Garrett, do you want to do the Tennessee Briles offense comparison? You want to do that now or break and then come back with it?
Let's break.
All right, we'll come back. We also want to get into what you guys are on, guys and girls, are doing on the chat room. And I like to do this every once in a while. I'm going to name who's in it. Not everybody. Can't do all your comments. Paxton, Justin, Scotty, Patrick, Bradley, thank you for your time. S. Michael DeHart, Lee Buttercup, Cougar Tracks, Wet Blanket, Paula, Clint, Buckshot, Biscuits and Gravy, Byron A., Bob Kramer, Red Wine 65, Daniel Acton. All of you are in the chat room. Also, Jacob Gim, you gave us a super chat. Show Memo. And Chris, Carl, Jesus, and Tom, hello. Thank you all for being in the chat room today, for being a part of the conversations and talking about what we're discussing as well with your opinions, questions, and feedback. This is 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and maybe used to be. As you grow older, one of the things that happens with Father Time and your body, being a human, some cases men, their testosterone level changes. It goes down. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. It may not be way low, or way cool, like Dave Aranda has said, but maybe down just enough that would affect things, including sleep habits, your energy, and even your sex drive. Dr. Kent Petty can help find out if your testosterone level, if you're one of those 1 out of every 3 men, by setting up an appointment to get your blood work, and then he'll get it. He'll take care of that appointment, by the way. He'll take care of the blood work, by the way. Then he'll look at the blood work. And then if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone level, and you can be the high-performance man you want to be. A lot of the attention is on ED and sex drive. It could be everything but that. So if you don't feel right, contact Dr. Kent Petty at PettyClinicLowT.com.
During Jeep Adventure Days, Allen Samuels in Waco is celebrating with an incredible lineup of 2022 models like the Grand Cherokee L, Renegade, Wrangler, and the Wrangler 4xe. These vehicles bring power to plow through any obstacles or the smooth, peaceful ride you'd expect from a Jeep. Jeep SUVs are also known for their design and technology. The Grand Cherokee L even brings you extended seating with a 3rd row. Come see what Allen Samuels can offer you and your family and find the Jeep SUV that fits your lifestyle.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select Choice and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
I think we try to tell you how much we appreciate you as much as we can, but we do. And those of you with us here on this, what is a rainy, kind of a cloudy, maybe a stormy night here in Central Texas or wherever you are, whether it's in Orlando or Cincinnati or Provo or in Fort Worth or Stillwater, wherever you are in Lubbock, we appreciate you for watching us and being a part of the show when you do. Now, saw this is very interesting. So Tennessee, RG3 yesterday, when we asked him about the Tennessee offense, what did he say, Paul?
He said, that's our offense, guys.
No, I asked him I said, does the Tennessee offense look familiar? And he said, yeah, come on, guys. That's, you know, whose offense that was or whatever. That's our offense. Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of the Baylor Browse offense.
No doubt about it. Now, there can be tweaks, just like that one was being tweaked. I think one year it was about how far they split the wide receivers to the point where defenses had to have 2 players about 5 yards off the sideline. So here's an article in theathletic.com. I'm going to warn you now. The sentences or the graphics are a little bit small in some cases, just the way the setup is, but I'm going to read these to you. Why Josh Heupel's Tennessee offense is so explosive inside the deep choice system by Mike Kuchar. All of this explosivity, 64% of the Vols' entire offensive output this season, based around one concept, the deep choice. Remember the deep fades that Baylor used to perfect with no matter who the quarterbacks were. At the very end, in red, I'll read this. This package is an offshoot of former Baylor coach Art Browse's system.
Well, yeah.
There we go.
There's not even a question about that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're absolutely. It's not even in debate. The only debate that Tennessee fans, if like they so choose, or any football fan wants to have, is what tweaks he's put on that offense. But I don't think anybody is, at least I haven't seen, naive enough to try and argue this is all some brand new creation that Josh Heupel is like some mastermind of. I mean, I give him all the credit in the world for putting his touch on it, but we know where this offense came from, and it's very clear. And actually, a guest we had on a few months ago, Cody Alexander, who knows quite a bit about X's and O's, has been talking about the roots of this and the comparisons. And you go back to the Joe John Finleys and how he was on staff with Josh Heupel, and actually Joe John Finley on the Oklahoma staff. But he at one point in time was on the Baylor Bryles staff, as was Jeff Lebby, who then went spread out and who was with who? Josh Heupel at UCF. And, I mean, those are just a couple of the crossovers, but there's more than that. But, yeah, that's where you can at least, look immediately and say, yeah, there's two instances of where they've melted brains over this whole idea and where Josh Heupel's picked brains and gotten ideas and learned more about it. But I mean, he certainly got his own touch. But yeah, that's where all this comes from. Absolutely, not even without a question.
Right. If you're a Tennessee fan and you think that this is original recipe, I'll tell you, you know who you are. You're a Lady Gaga fan who's never heard of Madonna. Like that's what you are. Like look, Lady Gaga's great, but. She's not blazing new trails.
Former Tennessee wide receiver Velus Jones Jr., now a part of the Chicago Bears, transferred to Tennessee from USC, 62 catches last year. Now, this is part that NFL would drive some NFL scouts crazy, and also when Baylor receivers got to the NFL, it didn't always work out. But here's one of that part. The most challenging part for me was to stop thinking too much. In the West Coast offense, well, you have to think, and you still have to think based on coverage and whatever's open. There's two quotes here. That's the first one. The most challenging part for me was to stop thinking so much. Then, rule number one in the receiver room, and this was without question what you saw in Waco. Get off the ball like your hair is on fire. There you go. Same thing. Hit the deep fade. They were constantly killing people with it. Now, another part of it, it's all about speed. Track players. Well, a lot of people have done that. That's not unique. I mean, people have done that with receivers, and obviously people want people with speed. Run, have fun, be dangerous when the ball is in your hands. Never make you never make a wrong decision, which takes away having to overthink anything. Just go play. Go do what you're supposed to do. It's all about spacing and speed.
Yeah, and the speed part was really key, because if you can coach up, especially since they're not giving them complex things to do, if you can coach up a guy to catch a ball on a shorter route and then just go be fast, then that allows you to shorten the process of the rebuild as it used to be, right? And that's changing now, transfer portal and all that. But what was done here was, let's get as many crazy fast athletes as we can get, and super athletes, and then throw those guys in the field and give a pretty easy offense to run. And the results were great. I mean, they won 2 titles in a row in the Big 12. The Heisman Trophy happened, and it's because they had this.
And guys were picked in the first round. A lot of them didn't make it, but a lot of guys were picked very high because of what they looked like in college.
Yeah, you've picked guys who were developmental, but look, if they could do one thing, they could run.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could run, but they also didn't know a route tree half the time either, and that's why they got into the NFL and maybe had an issue, was that, what they were asked to do is not anywhere close to what you're being asked to do in the NFL as far as just the overall ins and outs of the position and offenses and defenses and all of that. You had a lot of guys that, Corey Coleman, is Jalen Hyatt the next Corey Coleman?
Yeah.
Or is he a guy who's going to go off to the NFL and actually carve out a really great career and be around for a long time? I mean, that remains to be seen. I don't know Jalen Hyatt's, IQ as far as route trees and all those types of things. And, Corey obviously didn't go into the NFL with a very good attitude. And that hurt him, I think, right out of the gates. It was like the moment the Browns announced him as like, oh, career over. I mean, right away. I mean, and then, obviously as a rookie, they have the whole Hard Knocks. Was that Hard Knocks that they were doing back then? Yeah, had Hard Knocks. And, it was a really bad fit. And he was their biggest wide receiving star post Kendall Wright. Kendall Wright carved out a good career for himself. Terrence Williams carved out a good career for himself. So it wasn't like everybody was like that, but there were a lot of guys who were like fantastic in college, and then they got to the pros, and it was like, whoop, wake-up call in a major way. So I think that the thing with Tennessee to be excited about is that they're going to have another kind of level of player ultimately playing in this offense. It's basically like what Briles would have had if he had been around for another 2 or 3 years and they had kept winning at the clip that they were winning at, the types of recruits that they would have been getting at that point, and we're starting to get. Tennessee's obviously going to get in the NIL era too. They're going to, they almost got freaking Isaiah Nayor this offseason. When he committed at one point, right? So they're going to be able to just go and grab guys more so than have to. They still have to recruit, but they also have another pathway to go and get really stud players, and I think that's just going to give them another caliber of athlete that you then put in this offense, and it's evolved because the last time we were looking at, that's almost 10 years ago. It's almost 10 years ago, if you really think. It's closer to 10 than it is to like 5.
Yeah.
And so, that's evolved, obviously. The game of college football is way different. Like, it's far more accepted than it was back then. When we were talking about it, it was a gimmick. Nobody's playing defense in the Big 12. Now it's like it's the offense. It's the team to take a look at. Whereas it was kind of like, oh, that's really cool. Look at what they're doing. That gimmicky stuff down there. Now it's like the offense that everybody wants to talk about and take seriously. Instead of just, treating it like that's the Big 12 with no defense and gimmicks and all that.
High school offense, right?
Yeah, the high school offense and, all that jazz. Now it's accepted because the game of football's changed so much. So you add in a higher caliber of athlete, you add in the evolution, you add in the changes in football, and I think that Tennessee's got a really great opportunity here to kind of change the post narrative as far as guys going off and having success in the league with it.
Well, yeah, and the offense, remember, there used to be things like this with Mouse Davis and Hal Mummy among some others that really kind of created it, and then others just kind of tweaked it. It's like when people run, if they do run the option or they run just the RPOs, there's always something a little bit different. So I want to go back to the last, Garrett, and keep it up, please. This is the formation. Briles' fingerprints are all over this, what is Tennessee's system. And it begins with the width of the wide receiver splits on the perimeter. And I remember, leave it up, I remember when they made that change. It was not early on. It was eventually a tweak. When the ball is in the middle of the field, the widest receiver will be on the outside, outside of the numbers, roughly 5 yards from the sideline and sometimes even tighter to it. And what that did, again, was create more space, and also what it did was soften up what you could do in stopping what was still the bread and butter of a Briles offense. Tennessee's not known for what they do running the ball, but they've got guys who can do it, and it would soften up the inside as well because you were all spread out. Now, at the end, this is the quote. We had RG3 on yesterday. This is from a defensive coordinator. For the first time since RG3 at Baylor, we're seeing a quarterback that can not only hurt you with his arm, but if the choice concepts aren't there, he can kill you with his legs. First opposing defensive coordinator told me. That doesn't mean there haven't been other quarterbacks that can run and throw. There's been a handful of them. But those are the ones who are even special, and right now we're seeing that right now with Hendon Hooker at Tennessee. So there you go, all over it. And that's from theathletic.com and also from those who are breaking down the Tennessee offense. And you know what? You look at it, 52. That's why when Phil Bennett, Wednesday night, said that he was going to go visit with Nick Saban and kind of share ideas on Baylor's, how they tried to defend it. And Briles said, no, you're not, because we're going to play them one day. Well, that never happened, although it could have, but it never did.
I remember the last event that the big announcement that was made before all hell broke loose, basically, was him going and was Harbaugh coming down to Waco. Jim Harbaugh was coming down here to
absolutely
pick brains and do a whole camp. It was going to be a Baylor, Michigan camp. And I don't know how many people remember that, but I do vividly. And I think that whole ball was getting ready to start rolling. I think that as far as like the national attention on, kind of what was going on with the offense and how it was blossoming and all of that, I think that was all starting to get ready to start going higher up and peaking. And it obviously didn't happen because then everything just changed in a major, major way off the field. But, yeah, I mean, it's been a few years now, and we've seen it all over. Like, Kendall Browse has been all over the place. Jeff Levy's been all over the place. Joe John Finley, Josh Heupel. I mean, everybody who's been a part of it or learned from it or whatever, they're all – Dino Babers, my gosh. I mean, he's been around forever.
Cliff Kingsbury,
yeah.
I mean, if you hear Cliff Kingsbury talk when we were back there, like, how much of an influence is Art Browse on your career? And he's like a huge one. So, yeah, I mean, he wasn't on the staff, but, I mean, Browse was a coach at Tech for a little while. Well, Cliff was the quarterback, so it's all there. I mean, like, the offense and the spread concepts that he did are all there.
So there were some guys that were thrived in that offense that didn't make it for attitude reasons or maybe emotional or just the fact they didn't get it. And one of them, of course, is the one that stunned us all was Corey Coleman seemed to be fit for the perfect player to get in the NFL. In fact, I remember when we talked about attitude, when Shock Linwood had gone south his last year and they had the pro day early in the next year, and Shock was walking around. And I think he had a nose ring or something. And Corey Coleman was in the NFL at the time, and actually would have been Cleveland. Is that who drafted him? Yep. Actually walked up to Shock and goes, "Get all that crap off your face. Don't." He wasn't saying don't wear it. He just said when you're in front of an interview, get all that. He was trying to give him some advice, lead, and then of course Corey just whatever happened. Katie Cannon, Robbie Rhodes. Imagine what would have happened eventually with Josh Gordon. He was in and at times was explosive, but Josh Gordon, of course, had the problems with being suspended many, many times. So there we are with a story today. It's in theathletic.com. If, in fact, you have not seen that written by Mike Kuchar in theathletic.com. All right, so let's see. Last night, Rice beat, who was it? UTEP, 37-30. The Owls are 5-4, a win away from a bowl game. And then also Coastal Carolina, Jamie Chadwell and company beat Appalachian State in a good one, 35-28. Coastal Carolina now is 8-1.
Grayson McCall is fun to watch, man. Not to knock the Chanticleers because you get to see him on television quite a bit, but I would like to see that offense and guys like that in some bigger time games, just because I'm curious. I'm a big Jamie Chadwell fan, as you guys know. I want to see that offense at the higher levels. That's not the right way to say it, but in the Power Five for sure.
Yeah, I mean, good games, entertaining, and Rice is kind of a question, just a little up and down, a little inconsistent. But, I mean, I think Chadwell's going to get his spot. I don't if it's Georgia Tech or who it's going to end up being. I haven't seen a whole lot of smoke on the carousel here as of late, so I think we kind of get into this grind towards the end of the season. But that's about to pick back up, and I'm sure behind the scenes it's been plenty busy. But, yeah, if Jamie Chadwell's not at a Georgia Tech or somewhere like that when all is said and done, I'd be somewhat surprised by that. Just seems like a logical fit to be, somebody that gets that bump up in this next cycle. So we'll see. But, not a bad Thursday night. And, and certainly when we're talking about, offenses and fun things in college football, Coastal and what they've been able to do with just the longevity and the experience of a guy like Grayson McCall and everybody, having time to kind of marinate in that system. They've made some fun memories, and I can see that branching off and becoming much bigger on the national scene.
So someone, when we mentioned, has there been many quarterbacks that have that dynamic ability to throw it? I'm talking about not just throw it around a little bit, but have the ability that you see with Hooker, RG3, and there have been some. But Chris said, what about Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson is a dual-threat quarterback, but to try to say he is that accurate when it comes to throwing the deep fade, what he did in college at Louisville, he could throw it around, and he could put up huge numbers. He was a Heisman Trophy winner, all of that. But I think there's a difference in how he was as a passer and is as a passer compared to RG3 in college and what we've seen so far with Hooker at Tennessee.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch and really study that. I don't know. I feel like Lamar could zip it around pretty good. I think he could have won a Heisman in that same offense. I think if he had come to Baylor, I think he's winning a Heisman Trophy. So I think he would have been A-okay in that regard. I don't think you had to necessarily be pinpoint accurate or, throwing it through, needle holes or anything like that. And then there were guys, especially when you consider okay, if Bryce Petty thrived, I know Bryce Petty had a good arm and things like that, but he didn't have the dual threat side of it. Lamar Jackson would he would have been very RG3-esque in that offense, I think. So yeah, if you had the running ability, that just made it doubly dangerous. That's the thing. It was if you had a dual threat, then Seth Russell, for example, it was a freaking killer if you had somebody that could do both. If you had somebody that was more one-dimensional like Bryce Petty, it was still dangerous. But if you had that running ability, that natural running ability, then, there's not a lot of answers for it. There wasn't.
Yeah, I know that Baylor fans to this day will lament the fact that Seth Russell got so banged up at the end of his career, because that was the 2015 team, especially the way they started out and the way that Seth was playing was just phenomenal.
Yeah, they might have had a run. Here's the thing. Lamar Jackson in college over his 3 years at Louisville threw 69 touchdowns, 27 picks. He ran for 50 touchdowns. RG3 in college threw 78 touchdowns and 17 picks, and he ran for 33 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson's completion percentage, this is kind of what I was talking about with accuracy on all the throws, not just, and I'm not expecting anyone to throw it between a keyhole. 57% completion, RG3 completed in his career at Baylor, 67%. He was 72% his senior year when he won the Heisman Trophy, or his junior year when he won the Heisman Trophy. Just a little bit different, but now you see with Hendon Hooker and what he's doing. So that's a little bit of a look at the Tennessee offense and trying to flash back for some of you. And for some of you that maybe didn't know some of what was being put up back under Briles and Baylor in the 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and eventually after 15, it was over. Jeff Lebby, Oklahoma, he was at the Sugar Bowl with Ole Miss. Dave Aranda had enough answers for what they were doing for Ole Miss. Yes, there was an injury, but they were really getting to the quarterback. This is interesting because Lebby, in just a matter of less than a year, will get a second shot at Baylor as the offensive coordinator with Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma. This is 365 Sports. They have New York strip steaks on sale at Waco Custom Marketplace. It's not too late. You can get there before 6 o'clock tonight and when they're open tomorrow. Select, choice, and prime New York strip from $6.25 a pound, $9.50 a pound, and the prime New York strip melts in your mouth, $19.99 a pound per pound. And by the way, they melt in your mouth with the other sizes and types as well. Pork steak, $1.99 a pound. You know what's good with pork steak? Some sort of a potatoes, or maybe au gratin, and some sort of veggies. Pork steaks on the grill are great, $1.99 a pound. Fresh chicken tenders, regular snack sticks, and also the jalapeno cheddar snack sticks, both on sale, $5.99 and $6.99 a pound. Steak box, $100 value, is on sale right now for $90. Ask them for more details at the butcher shop. And there's a full-blown bakery as well. Kolaches, fresh baked bread, sweets and treats, seasonings and sauces. Great for tailgating or everything you need at night. It's Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Fridays at 3:45, Grayson Grunhaver joins us on 365 Sports. Grayson, thank you for being here with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. So, was that Baylor going forward what we saw in Lubbock, or was that just a tease?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to come away with at least some level of optimism from what you saw from Baylor as far as, you know, the product they put on the field on Saturday. And you know, I think I got asked this question earlier this week, and I think the more that I dove into it, the more I've said to myself, okay, that was definitely more about Baylor than it was about Texas Tech. This Baylor team seems to be trending in the right direction with their run game. Their defense has played better over the last 2 weeks, despite playing what I believe to be pretty dang good offenses in Kansas and Texas Tech. So, yeah, I think you're seeing Baylor grow and develop. You're seeing some signs. And I think that if everything comes together, they're going to be a really tough team to beat as things move forward in November.
Grayson, defensively, they 6 sacks, 5 interceptions, I think 5 passes broken up, 8 tackles for loss. That is probably about 3 games combined if you pick the right 3 on some of their worst defensive performances of the year. What do you think turned the light on? Was it just that matchup with the offense that Texas Tech runs, or is it something else?
Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely came into the game with a great game plan. you could definitely see that. They made Baron Morton extremely uncomfortable, made him get out of the pocket way sooner than I think the Texas Tech coaches were hoping for. And because of that, it allowed the defense to really get into good position to make plays. And so I do think that it was in part for the scheme. Obviously, Dave Aranda had a great scheme going into it. But I will also say I think the defensive line, as far as their one-on-one matchups, were far more active than they have been in the early part of the season. I mean, TJ Franklin, Gabe Hall, Braden Utley, Apu, I just felt like they were getting more pressure than they have in past games. Also, the jack position with Jackie Marshall and Garmin Randolph, they look tremendous as well. So if those guys can continue to take steps forward, that's really, really going to help them in the long run and help their secondary as well. So I'm very curious as things move forward and they start to face teams that can run the ball better. I'm curious if they're able to adapt and continue to get that kind of pressure, because clearly going into that game against Texas Tech, they did not respect Tech's ability to run the football, and that worked out for them. But as you move forward into this week against Oklahoma and against these other teams you're going to face in Kansas State, TCU, and Texas, you're going to face teams that can really, really run the football and challenge your defensive front in a different way than Tech could.
Grayson, how do you feel about the loss of Drake Dabney for what looks like the rest of the year? Just had surgery this week, and subsequently Kelsey Johnson. I mean, it's not like you just do exactly what Drake Dabney was doing and you're just a replacement in every way, shape, or form. Every player is different. But what do you think that Kelsey Johnson does that helps this team, and where are they going to miss Drake Dabney?
Yeah, so I think they're really going to miss Drake Dabney as far as his polish, right? Knowing route depth, knowing what to do when he sees certain coverages. I mean, there are nuances to being a receiver, especially as a tight end. So that's a part of it. I would also say, some of the blocking schemes, I think, maybe will be a little bit tougher for Kelsey to be as effective as Drake. But the one thing I will say is, Kelsey arrived early. He was an early enrollee, so he's had a lot more time than a typical true freshman. And he also has shown flashes throughout the year. He's gotten playing time in multiple games this season, and he's proven himself to be a very good blocker. And so as the season progresses, I expect him to get better and better. He played really well against Texas Tech. So now I'm curious if he can take another step. And obviously he's going to be utilized more as a pass catcher as well. So he's going to have to show some things in that regard. But I have a lot of confidence in Kelsey. He was a guy who I expected to play a lot this season as a true freshman. And that has been true throughout the year. But now he's going to be asked to do even more than that. And I also think, you're going to see Ben Sims be relied upon heavily as well. They're going to be asking him to do a lot more and play a lot more snaps than he has in the early part of the year. And I'd also say keep an eye on Gavin Yates as well, a guy who's played quite a bit during his career at Baylor, and I'm expecting him to take in more of a role as well.
How much has Khalil Keith's return, in your opinion, helped what they're doing on the offensive line?
Massive. I don't think the national media or really anyone that is, outside of the people who follow Baylor closely have really noticed it quite yet. But I think they're going to. And I think Khalil Keith, what he's shown me is just when you watch him hit a defensive lineman, it's just different. He's driving guys backwards. He's getting to the second level. And Gavin Byers has been awesome this year, but Khalil definitely brings a little bit more, especially in the run game. And so I'm very intrigued to see as his snaps continue to grow and grow, to see just how much better he can be. Because against Kansas, it was pretty much 50%. Against Texas Tech, it was still maybe a little bit more than that, but still right around that number. So I'm curious going into this Oklahoma game if his conditioning and, just if he's in shape enough to play, maybe 80% of the snaps, the kind of impact he can have. Because I think it could be a very big one. He's a very talented player, a guy who many people, including the Baylor coaching staff, believe to be an NFL prospect. So getting a guy like that back, I think it's huge for this team as November rolls on.
Grayson, if I were to take the old school overhead projector and put the little clear diagram of the Texas Tech offense and then maybe put over the next one of Oklahoma, it would probably overlap pretty well. Would it be a fool's errand to think that last week bodes well for this week? Or with what we've seen from this Baylor team, do we have to kind of take each week individually?
Yeah, no, I actually think this Oklahoma offense is extremely different than Texas Tech. And the main reason is because Oklahoma's offensive line is actually really good. And that is not something I can say about Texas Tech's offensive line. When you watch Oklahoma play in the games that they've had Dylan Gabriel, they're able to move people in the run game. And they really have made a strong, I think they've made a focus for themselves to, hey, you know what? We need to run the football. We need to protect our defense a little bit. And so we need to get physical up front. And you're seeing that from them. Eric Gray, their running back, has had a fantastic season. They're going to rely on him heavily. And you're not going to see a team that's just going to go out there and start throwing it all over the place like Tech did. I think Oklahoma's going to try to run the football, try to test the Baylor front, while also taking some shots in the passing game, of course. And I think that's going to force Baylor to probably put an extra guy in the box, or at least force Baylor to respect the run more than it had to against that Texas Tech team. So I think that's the key difference, is the Sooners' ability to run the football. I just think it's very unique than what they saw against Texas Tech. I'll also say I think Oklahoma's receivers are better as well. When you're talking about Marvin Mims and Theo Weiss and Jaleel Farouk and Braden Willis, they have more weapons who I think are a little more proven and a little more experienced than Tech. So I think it's going to be a real challenge for sure for this Baylor secondary and for the defensive line against what I believe to be a very good offense. And if you get rid of those games in which Dylan Gabriel, missed time or didn't play, Oklahoma's 5-1, and they're averaging 40 points per game, which would put them top 10 in the nation. So they are a very good offense, and one that, like I said, they're going to test this Baylor secondary and this Baylor defense as a whole.
Yeah, and that run game includes Dylan Gabriel, too. I mean, he'll definitely get out there and scoot if he needs to. Grayson, that was a big recruiting weekend for Texas Tech. I mean, we know all the pageantry, or at least the buildup and everything that was going on at this point ad nauseum. But, we didn't really hit on how big of a recruiting weekend that was, because it was theirs for one. But what do you think that did, if anything, for Baylor to go there at their place in front of some crossover prospects and go win? Do you think that has any sort of an impact, so to say, in recruiting, momentum, things like that?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things. Baylor's been able to show, hey, we won a Big 12 championship with Dave Aranda. Dave Aranda developed guys, got him to a Big 12 championship, not only got him there, won it. Then went to the Sugar Bowl, played an SEC team, won it. Like, they're going out and winning games. They're not having to sit there and say, hey, this is what we could be. This is what we can do if you come here. No, it's more like, this is who we are. We just want you to be a part of that. And that's huge when you make that transition, because when you're able to show actual facts of, hey, we went out and won this game by however many points, that's a big deal. So when a recruit goes to visit Baylor and that recruit's between Baylor and Texas Tech, and Baylor's able to show, hey, 45-17 in Lubbock, I mean, that's a big deal. And I mean, I'm not going to say that that's going to win you every recruiting battle, because it's not, but at least it's just another step getting closer towards Baylor being able to say, hey, we're the premier program in the state of Texas, and look at these wins that we have against the schools in Texas, which is going to, again, show up again in a couple weeks when they play TCU, and at the end of the year against Texas. Baylor needs to continue to find ways to win those games, and in the case against TCU, they need to find a way to win that specific game, because they've struggled over the years beating that TCU team. So I think it's very helpful. Again, I'm not going to say, oh, this is the end-all, be-all, but it's very nice for Baylor to continue to show these kind of wins against schools that they recruit against.
So what do they need, and what kind of Blake Shapen do they need on Saturday, tomorrow, in Norman to win?
Yeah, so for me, I think this goes back to, the games that we've been able to watch where he's been in control of the offense. And to me, the games that I look at when I'm really diving deep into it is the game against Iowa State and the game against Texas Tech. Those two road games, and you could throw in the West Virginia game. The only reason I wouldn't, though, is because of that one just costly turnover. I know he played great outside of that, but that turnover really flipped the game, the fumble that was returned for a touchdown. So I really focus on that Iowa State game and then the Texas Tech game, because he was in control of the offense. The moment never got too big for him. He was completing the easy passes and then also completing some deep shots. And his receivers made some plays as well. But in general, it was a lot of Blake Shapen, putting the ball where his receivers could make plays. And he needs to do that this weekend against Oklahoma, because in my opinion, Oklahoma's not going to be able to stop Baylor from running the football. So the only way I think they're going to be able to stop Baylor is if Blake Shapen is either inaccurate or turning the football over. So if he can avoid those two things, then I think Baylor's going to have a great chance to score 40-plus points against Oklahoma this weekend. And a number that I pointed out a little bit earlier in this week, but when Baylor rushes for over 170 yards this year, they're 4-0, and they're averaging nearly 48 points per game. So keep an eye on that 170 yards on the ground number.
Yeah, what Richard Reese is doing is really amazing for someone who's somewhat diminutive, but he's tough, and he's had a great run. So among all the players who are committed to Baylor, and there's a large chunk of them, we hear a lot about Austin Novosad and what he's doing at Dripping Springs, the great win against Lake Travis, 2 weeks ago or so. Washington at Franklin, among others. Pendergrass at Mineola. Is there one that's kind of jumped out at you that might be having even a better year than you thought?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know what? I'm going to go with, I think, kind of an under the radar maybe story that kind of appeared, and I just kind of found out about it this week. I knew this particular player was having a great season, and I knew he was helping lead his team to a great year. But Corey Kelly at Clear Falls. Really impressive what he's doing. And the reason I say that is because this is the first time in their school's history they've won the district, and they're 9-1. And he's been a huge part of that. Has had multiple double-digit tackle games, has a lot of sacks, and so I need to give him a shout out because he's been so good all year. He's a big part of their recruiting class. The guy that I have ranked nearing that 4-star territory is probably going to get there after this season, just based on what I've seen. Very versatile defensive end prospect who also kind of fits into that Jack mold, and just a great athlete, and one who I don't think many people talk about because obviously he's a defensive player and he's on a good football team, but he's been a huge part in their kind of turnaround, their success this year. So Corey Kelly, definitely a guy that's had a great year. And there's obviously many others. You mentioned a few of them. DK Kalu at Ridgepoint is another one that's had a magnificent season as well. So, yeah, I think those are a couple that I would definitely keep my eye on if you're a Baylor fan. I do look towards the high school playoffs that are coming up very soon.
In fact, they start a week from last night, Thursday of next week. Great stuff. Grayson Grundhafer, Sikkim365.com, recruiting coordinator, analyst, and also college football analyst, co-host of the Bearcast with Craig, that's released every Tuesday. When we come back, our national picks. Yay, they're next. 365 Sports, Sikkim 365 Radio, tonight at 10:30 on the CW channel. Sports Tonight at 10:30. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace just off of 35 in the southern part of Waco. Man, that place can do a lot of things for you. Two, most importantly, save you money, find out what is hurting. Muscle, ligament, maybe something else that's not supposed to be where it is. Or maybe something that they see on an MRI that's really like it's of your abdomen and you're having some stomach pain and it's not something that's a muscle. It's something else. You don't want it to be there. For example, if you feel like you're struggling with what might be prostate issues, in a large prostate, it will show up on an MRI. Ideal MRI will save you money, $497 for every single MRI, in fact, less in some occasions. They'll help you with the insurance, but never higher than $497. Always $497 or less. They'll find out what is wrong, a muscle, a ligament, your knee, your shoulder, whatever it is. At idealmri.com, Dr. Rob Maxey and his great staff. State-of-the-art technology MRI machine, idealmri.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Dylan Jones back in the game. They fake the handoff to him. Chapin, dancing, lofting, and it is caught. Touchdown. Hal Presley. Boy, Chapin really put some air under that one.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Couple of hours left before we hit the weekend. High school football again in Texas throughout the weekend. The last week of the regular season playoffs start next Thursday. Sam Bradshaw at 5:30 breaking down Baylor and Oklahoma tendencies and what he thinks both or need to do. We're now again going to look at our national picks. And these, I think, I can't see the records. Craig is 25-20, is that right?
No, he's 35. You both are 35 and 28.
35 and 28. Paul?
I'm 32 and 31.
Okay. But you made up around a game
I made
or two.
two
last
games
week. Yeah.
on you both last
All right,
week. Yes.
so let's see if we can keep you right where you need to be. TCU, home against Texas Tech. Tech coming off of, we've discussed this, but off the loss at home to Baylor. Turn right around, play against the top team right now, ranked, unbeaten, and leading the conference in TCU. And all of us make this pretty boring across the top. Horned Frogs across the board.
Yeah, I don't see Texas Tech winning this game on the road. They haven't done that yet. TCU's just been so good this year. Sonny Dykes playing against Tech. I love that. I love that matchup just because of the history of his father. I just think this is TCU all the way here. But Tech is going to probably play a better four-quarter game than they did a week ago. And it has nothing to do with TCU. I just think that they probably have a better performance in them than what happened last week in Lubbock.
Yeah, I'm going TCU. I just feel like they're the better team, and I don't feel like they're going to be caught off guard by Texas Tech, walking in pissed off and, rip-roaring ready to go because of what happened a week ago. I do think they'll have their hands full, like I said, and I don't think that they can afford to get down and then expect to just automatically climb out of a hole again. I mean, they've been able to do that, but I don't think that they can keep playing that way and just keep magically finding a way to ultimately end up on top. So, yeah, be careful playing with all that fire. But, I just think TCU top to bottom better. And Tech, they give up a lot of explosive plays. And, facing a team like TCU, what does TCU do well? They hit explosive plays. I mean, that's their bread and butter. That's what they do. They don't, go in necessarily long, grinding drives. They're going to hit big pass and big runs. And, I just think that they're going to be a little bit too much when all is said and done for Texas Tech.
You hit it on what I thought about, their explosiveness, and Tech has that too, but they give up a lot. TCU's given up some points. So, again, I just feel like TCU at home will have too much. Now, Baylor has beaten Oklahoma one time in the history of the times they've played. I think Oklahoma leads the series like 24-1. It was back in 2014. Baylor walked into Norman and maybe changed Bob Stoops' coaching career. They beat him up, made him like it. It was stunning, and it was methodical with Bryce Petty as the quarterback. They've beaten them one time. Now, there were some bad teams that played in Norman, but once, and they've been pretty good in football, except a couple of occasions since 2010.
Yeah, they didn't change Bob Stoops' coaching career particularly. They changed Mike Stoops' coaching career for sure that day. And because of what they did to that defense, I think here this comes down to a pretty simple matchup for me. Oklahoma's not been great stopping the run. If the RVO works like it did last week against Texas Tech, then Baylor wins this game. I think that's the thing that tilts the matchup in Baylor's favor to me, but I do not think this is going to be in any way a cakewalk because Baylor doesn't really win cakewalks. And it's in Norman, a place they've only won one at a time, but I do think it's time for the second win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the point where I don't really think, I've mentioned it too, the whole one win in Norman thing, but I don't really think that matters. I really don't. I mean, this team is road tested at this point. I don't think that Norman's going to be any more daunting than Provo was or than Texas Tech was supposed to be or maybe how Ames was there for a while. We had whoever it was that commented earlier about not having the pulse on, or the pulse on Baylor or whatever. It's just it's hard to when it's a different pulse week to week. I mean, that's the thing about it. Like, on paper, I think, yeah, this is what I'm going off of. Baylor is a better team overall, top to bottom, than Oklahoma. Not by a large margin, not by, double digits. I think that they are a better team, just slightly over Oklahoma, with both at their best. And, that would normally lead me to side with the home team in this situation, and I got really close to perhaps picking Oklahoma in this one. But I just think Baylor's a better team. So if they play at their best, then I think they go in there and they get a win. Now, whether they do that or not, obviously, is the wild card, because last week they did. Other times they haven't, and it's really just a crapshoot on whether they've learned their lesson now at this point. Have they learned their lesson about how focused and into this they have to be every single time out? Or did they listen to press clippings and all of those things like they were known to do, or at least let that leak into their brains in the build-up after a big win? And if they did that, then Oklahoma's going to beat them by a couple scores. And I can't predict that because I'm not in that locker room to know what the mentality is on whether or not they are locked in like last week or they are feeling good about a win. And so that's the guessing game here. I'm going to believe that they've learned their lesson now at this point, and with a month to go, they have to know what's at stake coming up in this game. So that's why I went with the Bears.
Yeah, I picked Baylor based on last week, and if they would have kind of just struggled and won, and I don't think I do, even though Oklahoma had that little stretch where they were kind of, they were hitting and missing. Well, hell, so did Baylor, but they were winning some of those compared to the Sooners, and it's hard to overcome you got beat up badly by TCU. Everyone now, not everybody been beaten up, but that game against Texas was holy, you know what? But they have turned, at least the tide is now somewhat not against them. It's kind of more as much about the same with them.
They have the exact same record. They have the exact same 2-game winning streak. It's the exact same thing, except for the fact that Baylor didn't get blown out by Texas. And, yeah, they got blown out by Texas, but who was the quarterback?
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel did not play in that game, so it's not like that was the Oklahoma team that we're talking about here. I mean, Texas maybe still blows them out, but they don't shut them out the way that they did Davis Bevel. I mean, that's a game that needs to be brought up for just talk about this Oklahoma team in general, but I don't think it's a great comparison for who they are at this point at all.
Well, the difference between this year's Oklahoma and the years that they got used to under Stoops and Riley was if a Dylan Gabriel went down, the guy they usually had behind him was somebody that was just about ready to
Caleb
be
Williams.
Yeah, exactly. Was about ready to go, and the gap between Dylan Gabriel and Davis Bevel is much more prodigious.
Yeah, no, they got the
spoiled.
quarterbacks we've seen that have gone down, the starters compared to the backups. This one might be the largest drop-off. I can't think of what other school might be more of a drop-off, and unfortunately for Bevels, than Dylan Gabriel to him. Even Baylor Shapen goes down, and Kyron Drones played pretty well. Obviously, I don't know what the backup would be for West Virginia with J.T. Daniels, but
It'd be Garrett Green.
Green, okay. No, and so you saw Kansas. Daniels goes down, and we saw what Bean brought to the table. Card for Ewers. So, yeah, there's a big drop-off for Oklahoma. But that game did happen, and it's still in my mind because they no-showed in that one, and Texas had a lot to do with that. In fact, a lot to do with that one. All right, next game. Here's number 1 against number 2, or 2 against 3, 1 against 3, whatever number you want to go with. Tennessee, the Vols, and Georgia.
I got a feeling that Tennessee is kind of this year's team of destiny. They've got 2019 LSU vibes, and that they maybe not as deep and talented. It's just like the way that they kind of just control every game the way that they want it to go has been that way. Now, this is going to be harder against Georgia, who also does that. I just think that Tennessee might be just a little bit too much for them. I think there's something special about this particular season and this particular team.
I don't know. I really struggle with this one back and forth. I initially picked Georgia and then probably outthought myself and going towards Tennessee after stewing on it a little bit. I keep hearing all week of I just don't know if Georgia can match scores with them, as though Tennessee's just going to waltz in there and every, drive is going to be scoring touchdowns. And that was a lot of what we used to hear about Baylor, right? Are they going to be able to match points? In certain matchups, that was that case. And in a lot of matchups, they struggled to get to 35-2 or to 28 or whatever it was. It just all depends on the style of game. So, last week, did anybody have Texas Tech scoring 17 points?
Nope.
No, they had a red-hot, rapid-fire offense. Well, if you don't have the football, then can't score 45 points. And so I think Georgia tries to keep the ball away from Tennessee as much as possible. I mean, that's what every team that faces them is gonna try to do at least. And even then, it can be demoralizing because you can keep it away for 15 minutes and they score in 30 seconds once they get it. And it's like you did all of that just to have them match it in 2 plays, and that's what's just crushing for teams. But I don't have a lot of scientific reasoning as to why I picked Tennessee, other than just they're red hot. They seem like a bit of a team of destiny. I do think that there's probably a bit too much just overlooking of just how good Georgia has been. And I know it's not the same team as last year and the same defense as last year. But, yeah, give me the Vols. I just feel as much as anything else.
Georgia is not who they were last year, but they're still really, really good.
Yep.
They had the game where they got tested and scared the hell out of them in Missouri. They also smoked Oregon, who's pretty good, and I don't know if that's who they are now, but I just feel I've always been this way, and it doesn't work out every time, and I've missed them because of it. They are the defending champions. They lost a lot, but they didn't lose everybody, and they replaced people like Alabama does, And Tennessee scoring 52 against Alabama. A lot of teams have been able to have success against their defense this year. I just have Georgia at home. Is that between the hedges?
Yep.
I have Georgia at home beating Tennessee. And guess what? If I'm wrong, I'm thrilled for Josh Heupel and the Vols because it is already a great story. TCU, Tennessee, a couple of the great stories right now in college football. Now this one, my goodness. Kansas needs another win. They still need a win to get bowl eligible. Oklahoma State had to go home with their tails between their legs. Both of you, we've talked about this. Paul Catalina, you take the Jayhawks.
Biggest reason
shocking.
I believe James.
I mean, at this point, man, like, goodness gracious. Yeah. I get why this week. I get it.
Yeah. Look, no. The good news is she does not care about football. She only cares about, like, it's not honestly, for most, and I don't mean to call you out, Jayhawks fans, but from what I've gathered, it is not in most Jayhawks fans' DNA to care about football yet. They're enjoying it. Kind of like an after dinner drink almost. Like that's what they do, but they still are addicted to basketball. But Kansas this week, I think I'm basing it on the belief that Jalen Daniels will play and Spencer Sanders may not. And if this does become a battle of the backups, I like Jason Bean more than I like Gunnar Gundy. One, because Jason Bean has played a lot more than Gunnar Gundy has. And I don't like what I'm seeing from Oklahoma State as far as availability of not just this quarterbacks, but everybody else. They're struggling to get out of the out of the medical tent, so to speak. And I think Kansas gets that 6th win. Now this might be the last one, but I do think they get that 6th win this week. And Jalen Daniels is such a difference maker for them. I think that's why. Now, if he does not play, then I get a little more nervous about this. But I do think he's playing this week.
Craig Smoak.
This is. That's why I don't bet. By the way, a disclaimer: this is not betting advice in any way, shape, or form. I think we might be the only college football show that doesn't give betting advice, like on the regular at this point. It seems like everybody's an expert, but there are some ones that are really good, and we're not claiming to be that. This is just our picks, right?
Yeah. If you want to get your thumbs broken, do this.
Yeah, just to be very clear there.
You want to wake up in bed with a horse's head.
Yeah,
right?
Do this.
So, I mean, this is a game this is why, I don't bet. Because not knowing the injury situation. This is the thing is, if college football keeps growing, I've heard this before, and especially if, let's say Brett Yormark wants to get into the gambling side of things, which he very well could, because that's just an obvious, entry into another, batch of money would be sports betting and things like that. You'd have to let everybody know what the status of these guys is, like the NFL does. And so I welcome that if we're going to go that direction, is you can't hide that Jalen Daniels still isn't healthy and not anywhere close. You'd have to actually let people know that. So I would be all for getting closer to actually knowing who's going to play and getting rid of some of these, these mind games, although that's part of the fun too. So with the mind games involved, I was very apt to go with KU here, but I went with Oklahoma State, man. I think Spencer Sanders ends up playing. I don't know that. And even if he does, I don't know how healthy he'll be, obviously. But I don't know how healthy they are. And so this is just a wild guess that they bounced back from complete embarrassment last week. An all-time embarrassing loss for Mike Gundy, who's coached a lot of games in Stillwater. This is a pride thing for me. This is like a gut check type of a game for me. And look, they might not have enough guts available to be able to put up a fight, but not knowing that, I just have to go with my gut, and my gut says Oklahoma State's going to have more pride than losing this next game after what we saw last week. But if KU wins, I would not be shocked, especially if Sanders is out. That's going to make it a pretty easy call there.
Well, if they do win, they are bowl eligible. That is another great story in college football. It's kind of dampened a little bit because of the streak they're on, losing Jalen Daniels, although Bean played well in his absence. So I have Oklahoma State. I just have a feeling about it. I don't really have any reasons why other than just I think they're a better team. Not much better, but a better team.
Oh, yeah, I do think they're the better team. Yeah.
Iowa State. Oh, man, I'll tell you what, Matt Campbell needs a win. The Cyclones need a win. West Virginia, Neil Brown need a win. Across the board, because we all like Adam Batchelor, we take the Cyclones to beat West Virginia.
I just think it's time. And they're they're both kind of – they're not the same because I don't think Iowa State is hovering in this, like, void of nothingness that West Virginia seems to be stuck in. But I do think that this is at home where it tilts their way in what is a game between two teams where one side of the ball, when you're watching it at times in this game, you're going to be like, what are you doing? But I do think this is Iowa State this week and what is going to be not probably a fun game to watch.
Yeah, this is not the best brand of football maybe that you can find this weekend. Not maybe. It's definitely not. But I don't know. I think this will be entertaining in its own weird way, right? This is Sickos Committee type of stuff for sure to shout out those fellas. This is kind of, I think, up their alley, this game. I go Iowa State. I just feel like they're due, and I don't know where else they're getting a win. Perhaps Kansas, but outside of that, I don't see the Cyclones winning a Big 12 game. Being at home, I'm going to go with them here, although, I could definitely see West Virginia having enough firepower to be able to edge them. I really got a bad vibe with Neil Brown last week, and that's kind of what's pushing me more than anything is I think they're pretty even teams. I definitely despise Iowa State's current offense and just how bleh it is. No run game, is a big part of the reason why there. So that bodes well in West Virginia's favor. I'm not exactly sure how Iowa State is going to score enough points, honestly, but I trust their defense. That's the thing is they're going to have a really good defense. I think they maybe force some JT Daniels mistakes or get a couple turnovers. I don't know how it unfolds, but I do think it'll probably be a closer game. And give me the Clones to finally win one.
I take Iowa State. I just have them at home. Sometimes that matters, sometimes it doesn't. I just saw a picture. Our good friend Jed's Redding. They landed, I guess, in Ames or Des Moines, and it's nasty up there, just like it is here. It's just nasty. So that you would think. Would that not help Iowa State if the weather's nasty, no matter what the turf, of course, with the not being – is that grass, Iowa State?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You can't be an ag school and have turf. I'm just telling you right now. Ask A&M how they had to, go back after they put
the days
turf
when
down.
They had the concrete?
Yeah.
LSU, what a nice story they've become in college football after a little bit of a shaky start. Garrett Ross is happier because of it. Mm-hmm. Alabama and LSU. We both, all of us, across the board with Alabama.
I will not be threatened by Garrett and any of his goons. I actually do think that this should be a much better game than we would have thought it would have been a month ago. I think Jade Daniels makes this really interesting, especially what he is amazingly good at. And teams early in the year were letting him do it, which is, well, if he's not going to throw the ball, we'll let him run for a first down because when they get in the red zone, we'll make him throw and they won't score. Well, now that he has better relationships with most of the receivers, I still think that he and Butte are not simpatico, but most
disappointing.
Yeah, most of the other guys he seems to have a really good rapport with. I think that this will be interesting, but Bama is at about as full strength as they've been in a little bit, and I do think that they need a statement big win against a good SEC team after the loss to Tennessee. So I do think Bama beats this on depth and experience, but. And that's only because of the way that this team at LSU is constructed right now. Is they're good 1 to 26 or 7, but they're not good 1 to 85 like Alabama would be.
Yeah, give me the Tide. I just think that they're a better team overall. I know they've had some bumps as well. LSU's I think exceeded expectations and certainly can be a team that rips off some exciting plays and can do a little something on offense, but and you got to love what they've done as well. Especially Harold Perkins is the name that everybody's talking about now, and he's not alone, but he's the dude, and that's why you hear his name like constantly now. Like there's a lot to like about LSU, but yeah, I default to Bama. I feel like they're about to go into postseason mode here, and I don't think that they're going to be by any means less than anything but a very sharp version of themselves, knowing what they're walking into. So I'd expect this Bama team to just be ready to go and, out to make a point. This is Alabama LSU, man. This isn't a game that I think Bama's going to come weekly walking. I think everybody's got their big guns ready to go, and I think Bama's just got bigger guns right now than LSU does.
Night game?
It's 6. Yeah, it's going to be a 6 o'clock game.
That's good. There's an article, and I don't know if it's in The Athletic or ESPN, about night games, broadcasting and all that in Baton Rouge. I'll take Bama. Now, this one here, a great matchup. Texas had a week off after they blew that lead against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, of course, the next week, wished they would have had a week off, and they almost acted like they did with what happened against Kansas State. Kansas State, this was a team that if anyone other than one or two of the favorites, Oklahoma State, Baylor, maybe, Oklahoma, was going to win the conference, this is the one that got a lot of early play. Then they had the loss to Tulane. Then they had that game where they were dominating TCU on the board 28-10, and they couldn't hold on to it. They're good. Texas has a week off. You would think that would help. Maybe get Ewers back into a better, accuracy. His hand or whatever was healed, his toenail or whatever it might have been. Paul?
I picked Kansas State in what should be a very good game just because of the way their defense has been playing. I'm really impressed, especially last week. I know that's a banged-up team they did that too, but shutting out anybody in the Big 12 is impressive, and they're playing with intensity. They're playing at home, so that's why I picked them. It is... this was the hardest one by far. It was just harder for me to pick than Tennessee and Georgia. By far, this is the hardest game for me to pick all week. I lean towards the home team. I lean towards the better defense. But this is the one where I feel the worst about giving a game back to you guys, or at least to Craig, not to you, but to Craig. I'll get because Texas off of a bye. That should scare everybody, I think.
Why?
Just because I think Sarkisian, get everybody rested. This Texas team has a better vibe about it than they have in years. The way that they approach things and take things. I know that, not staying out there for the fight song is the little, UT drama of the year, but I think they can brush that off a little bit better than previous iterations of the team. So that's why. And, but I still leaning Kansas State here, but I feel the worst about it than all the picks.
All right.
I think Pole Assassin has 3 touchdowns for. Oh wait, no, that's a different Texas story. I didn't struggle with this one as much as as much as Tennessee, Georgia. That was the toughie for me. But I tell you guys all the time. I don't think any Texas fan who randomly pops in and listens feels like it, or realizes it. But I overrate Texas constantly. Like, have we established that at this point? Like, I give them the benefit of the doubt.
You do,
more
but
often
you're not the only one. I mean, like America does.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't put them in my top 25 poll to prop up teams at the front end like Alabama, like the committee did very clearly. But, yeah, I do think that they're probably one of the best teams, best 3-loss teams in the country. Coming off the bye, Ewers was not very good at all the last time we saw him. And I started to see that too. Like, now there's a hand injury that's, so it was the wind. And now it's a hand injury. So it's the wind and the hand injury. I don't know if both are going to be in play for him tomorrow or not. But, Hudson Card, maybe go to him quicker if Ewers is struggling that way. Like, I don't know. Maybe go to the guy who's probably going to be a top 5 potential transfer portal target, an NIL guy this offseason, and Hudson Card if Ewers is having that much of a problem. I like K-State a lot. If they win this game, it won't be surprising in the slightest. I do think that was a really obviously impressive win over Oklahoma State, even though clearly Oklahoma State wasn't at their best. You still have to give K-State a ton of credit for just going out there and taking care of their business and being done with it. I think Texas gets back on track after having a little bit of time to catch their breath and just a bit too much firepower in this game for the Longhorns.
Is there anyone other than TCU, if they were playing this weekend in Manhattan, buy or not, you would pick to beat K-State?
Might pick Baylor.
Might.
I might. TCU,
and they're playing
I might.
Waco next week.
Yeah, I don't. That's probably it. Probably about it.
All right, and I picked Kansas State, and I think of them as, they lost to Tulane, who's really pretty good, but also that's a long time ago. They had a 28-10 lead against TCU. And that game almost seemed like it flipped because TCU scored right before the half. So 28-10 against a team that's unbeaten right now, who came back to beat them. And they smothered Oklahoma State 48-0. When we come back, we'll hear from Taylor McCart, ESPN broadcaster and college football analyst. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, come by Let's Be Friends. And in fact, just got a couple of new notes from Alan Samuels. They wanted me to promote. They have dealerships, SUV vehicles, and whatever, the Ford trucks. The Funtown RV Heritage Bowl is going to be in Corsicana, and they're going to have football games there. This is going to be, again, all sorts of Division II football games. Funtown RV Heritage Bowl coming up in Corsicana. And guess what? Alan Samuels is one of the sponsors of that. You have Texas A&M Kingsville, Western New Mexico University, Eastern Central University, Southeastern Oklahoma State, Washburn, Central Oklahoma. Many more to go. It's going to be like a bowl game type atmosphere between two Division I teams, and it's $10 a ticket. If you want more information, you could drop by Alan Samuels and ask them, or you could also go online to Division II football and their website. So Alan Samuels, one of the things Ted Teague does, sponsor of our annual Academic All-Stars program to give back to the great student-athletes, seniors in Central Texas. They give back to a lot of community events throughout Central Texas. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Make a winning drive to Genco and refinance your vehicle. Every loan can skip monthly payments for 90 days with rates as low as 3.75% APR for 48 months. Right now is the time to make a play. At Genco, we save you money by helping you pay less for your car. Every loan scores no payments for 90 days. Then have a chance to win 3 more months of no payments. Apply online today for an additional discount of 0.15% off our already low rates, subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Botch, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts, and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
McCart
end zone, broken up and caught. Touchdown, Jordan Taylor. Wow.
It's time for our weekly segment with ESPN analyst Taylor McCart.
And here we go, this 4 o'clock hour rolling around to the top near the 5. And Taylor McCart, ESPN college football analyst, broadcaster, joins us on 365 Sports. We'll get to the game at Temple and USF here in a moment. But let's start with the college football standings release. Taylor, what was to you maybe one or two storylines that you saw that jumped out at you?
Well, I think the ESPN knew what they were doing, putting LSU at 10, create a top 10 matchup for Alabama. I mean, in all seriousness, I thought LSU at 10 surprised me quite a bit, and it did create some drama for week one. That was one of the teams that I was surprised to see where they were initially. Clemson at 4, the resume is not awful. The biggest thing that jumps out is still that they've got legitimate issues at quarterback. And I think there were a couple teams behind them that you could have made a solid case that deserved to be ahead of them, one of them being TCU. I think there's a couple things working against TCU right now. Number one, the worthless preseason poll. And number two, I do think, right or wrong, it is being held against them that some of their wins have been comeback wins when the starting quarterbacks for these teams have gone down. Whether or not that's being acknowledged by the committee, I think it is playing a part. The good news for TCU is they keep playing and keep winning. If they were to run the table in the Big 12, they're going to be in.
Let me ask you this. So, Taylor, would that be discussed if it was a blue blood name?
No, certainly not. I mean, think about if it was Oklahoma or Texas, they are, at a minimum, they're 5 with the resume that TCU has. They're probably ahead of Clemson, to be honest, because Michigan's being penalized because of their non-conference schedule. It's one of the worst in the history of the playoff era. It may be the weakest non-conference schedule. So they're being penalized for that. And Clemson have a couple quality wins, but I think they're at 4 because of the issues with quarterback play and having to come back late against a Syracuse team that turned around and got beat at home by Notre Dame. So, to your point, though, no, absolutely not. If this wasn't TCU with a first-year head coach and a team that was picked middle of the pack in the Big 12, they would not be at 7.
Taylor, this week, the biggest game is Tennessee and Georgia. We just made our picks. Smokey picked Georgia. Craig and I both picked Tennessee. And the biggest reason I can come up for Tennessee is, other than the way they've been playing all year, they feel like a bit of a team of destiny for me, but that would be winning between the hedges. What are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, they do kind of feel like LSU in 2019, don't they? Where it's all season, you're sort of waiting around. It's kind of a nice story. Okay, is this team legit? And then I think it was Alabama in week 9 or 10, kind of a similar spot in the season, that they went and got a win, and everybody said, okay, maybe we need to actually pay attention and give some credit here to that LSU team. I think it's similar for Tennessee. Georgia's going to try and make this game ugly. I think if this turns into a shootout, that lends itself well to Tennessee because I think they've got the firepower on offense to really play with anybody. On the defensive side, it's been hit or miss. Will be interesting to see what does Tennessee do with the tight end position for Georgia. I think that's going to be something to pay attention to in this game. I like Tennessee to win this game. I think they've got the type of offense that travels well because a lot of it's Hendon Hooker's not dropping back. A lot of this isn't 5-step progressions. A lot of it's getting out of his hands quick. That'll limit pass rush for Georgia. So I like Tennessee. I like them throughout the rest of this season. I think they're neutral site or on the road. You can put them up against really anybody, and I would take them right now.
All right, let's stick with the SEC here, Taylor. Top 10 matchup. I don't know how many people thought this would be a top 10 matchup even a couple of weeks ago, but LSU at number 10 now, playing host to number 6 Alabama. Pretty huge game here, and usually a good one between these two. What are your thoughts?
Well, the last time we saw LSU at home against the top 10 team, they got their doors blown off by Tennessee. Now, I think you fast forward a couple of weeks, and the way that they came back against Ole Miss was impressive, where they're down, I believe it was 20-3, and they go on a 42-3 run, I think is what it was, and figured some things out on the offensive side. You're not going to be able to give Alabama a spot like they did to Ole Miss. But look, you guys know as well as anybody, going on the road, playing a night game in Baton Rouge, it's a tough place to play. They're going to have this. Brian Kelly's talked all week about how this is the type of game and the situation for why he left South Bend to go be the head coach at LSU. So ultimately, it comes down to one guy, and it's the quarterback, your Heisman Trophy winning quarterback on the other side for Alabama. Can they slow down Bryce? If they can't, look, this may be a 2-score win for Alabama, but think back. I know one of the games he didn't play in for A&M when it came down to a one-possession game late, but even earlier in the year on the road against Texas, I mean, this is an Alabama team that could have 3 losses. So I don't think it's certainly not out of the question that LSU could win this game. But if Alabama plays clean on offense, I think they probably win even on the road.
I was just thinking, you got to love the transfer portal. After talking about the 2 games we're talking about, all made possible by the transfer portal, Taylor.
That's exactly right. I mean, look, I cover most games for the American Athletic Conference, right? And every week it's kind of a mixed bag between you've got schools that have an established culture and they only hit the portal for 1 or 2 guys. And then you've got, when staff turn over and things change, you've got South Florida again this week. Like half of their roster from year over year is basically brand new. And that's just the day and age we live in. And for some schools, it's worked out and they've hit, especially at the highest level, like a USC. Sometimes it doesn't, though. Sometimes you get kids in and it doesn't pan out early in the season, and all of a sudden they start looking around again. So it's we used to say, it wasn't even that long ago. I sound like an old timer, but we used to say transfer for a reason. I don't really think that's the case anymore for most positions. But for some kids, if you transfer and it doesn't pan out, all of a sudden they start looking around midway through the season like, okay, maybe I'm not going to stick it out here.
Taylor, a team that may not be a part of the first 5 to 7 in the college football standings that, because of who they still have to play, can get back in this thing.
They're outside of the top 7, but I think the best chance for the Pac-12 to get a team in the playoff would be for USC to run the table, because I think Oregon is going to have that week 1 loss against Georgia held over their head all year. And even if they were to run the table the rest of the way, win the Pac-12, everybody else, the national media, I think there is some truth to a natural SEC bias. I mean, you've seen that with some of the rankings with LSU at 10 and Ole Miss at 11. But for the Pac-12, I think their hope of getting somebody in, you could point back to it's a close loss, a night game at Utah for USC. If they close out the year on a run, they would have to beat UCLA. Then you'd have to likely beat Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. I think there's a path there for them to get in. Certainly over if you have a 1-loss Big 12 team, I think this is what would be interesting. If there's a scenario where you're talking about 1-loss ACC, 1-loss Pac-12, or 1-loss Big 12, that's where it gets really interesting on who the committee puts in. I think USC would have a pretty strong case, especially depending on what their performances look like the rest of the way.
Taylor, one of the more difficult games to put your finger on in the Big 12 this week has to be Kansas and Oklahoma State, given Oklahoma State's mash unit of a team. Kansas off the bye, maybe with Jalen Daniels, maybe not. This might be a battle of the backups in Jason Bean and Gunnar Gundy. What do you make of what's going to happen in Lawrence on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, the Oklahoma State loss last week was one of the more shocking results. It doesn't surprise me that Kansas State won that game, and it wouldn't have surprised me if they'd won in a traditional blowout fashion. Call it 3 or 4 touchdowns, but 48-0, and one of the worst losses in program history. I don't think anybody saw that coming. It's a battle of backups, and both backup QBs are in Kansas and Oklahoma State. I think that lends itself more to Oklahoma State. I think there's still too much top-down talent. For Kansas, it was really everything changed when Jaden Daniels got hurt early in the year, where they start out 5-0, and now they've dropped 3 in a row: TCU, OU, and Baylor. So they're still trying to fight to get one more just to get the bowl eligibility. But again, if you have both backups in, I think that lends itself to Oklahoma State. The other one in the Big 12 that I have circled just because pure entertainment from the offseason is Tech going to TCU and everything that went into the tickets, and TCU withholding tickets from the Tech fans, and that's how it was, the birth of the cactus emoji this offseason. So Tech, this is an opportunity for them to play spoiler And again, just for pure entertainment value alone, I think this game is worth watching in that 11 o'clock slate.
You know your Big 12 football because not a lot of people even know where that came from, and that's exactly where it came from was the TCU Tech ticket fiasco. Yeah, that whole thing, and I'd expect that to that's like a rivalry now. I mean, it already kind of was, but it's even more so now just because of the whole ticket fiasco. So that is going to be interesting. I think you're right. So the last time that the Rice Owls were in a bowl game was back when some guy named Taylor McCart was on the roster, and they won a couple of conference championships. They're first in a really long time in decades. And Taylor, last night, the Owls get another win. They're sitting there with 5 on the year. And I know looking at the rest of their schedule, there's not necessarily a gimme when you're looking at like UTSA and North Texas, and then there's Western Kentucky, even if they're not quite what they were last year. But how are you feeling about the Rice Owls?
Man, I won't bore your listeners too long with this because I know they don't. It's not what they tuned in to hear. But I am proud of them. I'm proud of my Owls for getting, they're 1 win away. Last week, lost to a Charlotte team that had just fired their head coach, and it was kind of a game that Rice had circled to say, look, if you win this one and go to UTEP, you're in. Because the last 3 weeks, Western Kentucky, UTSA, and North Texas, those are the top 3 teams in the league in Conference USA. So you got to get one of those. They're capable. The problem for Rice right now is they don't have any quarterback depth, and I think what that's created is quarterback TJ McMahon is slinging the ball all over the yard, and I think he leads the country in interceptions. If he's not, he's in the top 2 or 3. I think he's got 12 on the year now through 9 games. So he turns it over quite a bit, and I think a lot of that's just he knows they're not going to bench him. The other quarterback is hurt behind him, and then they've got a freshman that they don't want to play. So that's been the biggest Achilles heel. And if they take care of the football, they can go get a win against any one of the 3 teams they have remaining. But turnovers they had another 2 last night against UTEP. But look, I don't care. This is a true story, guys. We went and rush ordered a passport for my 5-month-old just in case Rice goes to the Bahamas Bowl so that we can go.
There you go.
We don't get too many. We don't get too many bowl appearances on South Main, but wherever they go, we'll be in attendance.
Have they debated at all if, like, break glass in case of emergency Luke McCaffrey, or is he just too good where he is now?
He has been that's honestly one of the biggest reasons why Rice has had some success this year is Brad Rosner and Luke McCaffrey are the 2 best skill players Rice has had, kind of a 1-2 punch, honestly, since Jordan Taylor was there back in the day. He had a 5 or 6 year NFL career. I mean, these guys are that level of talent, and especially McCaffrey. He went from quarterback to playing receiver, and anybody that's watched any of their games or watched their tape, he runs, moves around like a receiver and drops right into it. Like, that is really difficult to do because it's a totally different skill set. And most quarterbacks that convert, it takes them a while. But he was doing all the little things, the route running, the settling in zone coverage, like all the little things that are hard to teach. He was doing it immediately. And I think that's, honestly, it's probably a lot to do with just bloodline and who is, the family that he came from.
What does this mean for Mike Bloomgren long term for them?
Yeah, look, the rumor around Rice and the kind of the chatter has been he probably needs to get to a bowl this year. And I love Mike. He's been nothing but great to me. But 5 years in a place like Conference USA, you have to get to a bowl. And I think that's kind of the consensus with everybody. It will be interesting to see these last 3, what they look like. Rice is not the type of place to do big buyouts and fire coaches. And I think, that's obvious. But I think the expectation for him is they need to get to a bowl with this being his 5th year and the amount of production that they had coming back. They really should have already been to 6 wins to this point, but still has 3 more to go. And hopefully they get at least one of those.
Taylor, love it. Thank you. Enjoy your game. You got anything else? You want another Temple and USF? It's too bad Gary Bohannon is not playing anymore for USF, but Temple, Matt Rule, always think about that. And then, of course, USF with what they're doing. Enjoy the game. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Wade on the Sikkim365.com. We'll take a break here, come back with a little mini segment, right? Yeah. Before 5. An update, the Board of Regents were meeting this week. In fact, I did get a message from one on the Sikkim365 site about some things that have been going on as far as the TV deal and athletics, et cetera. Here is listening to what we were doing and said that you guys hit everything of those right perfectly. Everything you were talking about was true. But a Board of Regents update on money and the Fudge Football Center. That will be another part of the growth of Baylor Athletics. That and more next on 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for not only a great deal when you're buying your car, but also for the service and repair and life of your car when needed as well. Didn't buy my car there originally. Went through another dealership back home in East Texas, but then had a couple of little accidents. Weren't my fault, just part of driving on a hectic I-35 sometimes. And when it was all said and done, the people that I counted on the most was Richard Carr, and I've done that ever since. They've been great, and I know that if I need not necessarily like a fender repaired, but I need let's say just an oil change, they will be the people that I go to as well to go ahead and get things like that done because of their great customer service. And when I go to buy a new car again, eventually, hopefully not anytime soon, but sometime in the near future, they will be the people that I go and count on for that as well. But if you're in the market right now, they've got trucks, SUVs from GMC all over the lot. 2022 Sierras, Acadias, Terrains are waiting for you to test drive today. We've got XT4 and XT5 SUVs from Cadillac, also available for test drives. But inventory is limited and going fast because, well, they haven't always had a ton of inventory, nor has any car dealership, right? The supply chain issues, microchip problems, all the different things that have affected car dealerships. Well, they finally got some new ones on the lot, so go ahead and take advantage of that right now while that lasts. And maybe they don't have exactly what you're looking for. We'll get on their inbound vehicle list once you find something that you like, and they'll let you know, like, hey, it's still in production and it's going to take a little while. Well, you basically get your placeholder, so as soon as the vehicles are ready and arriving, then you will be up first to go ahead and jump into that new car, truck, or SUV. But perhaps you don't see anything that's worth plucking or picking to put off to the side and wait on. Well, go ahead and talk with the good folks over there at Richard Carr, and they will help you design the vehicle that you're looking for, and then talk with the folks at GMC and have them prioritize it for you. So a lot of different options there. New or pre-owned, see exactly what you like or maybe not exactly what you like. Eventually, when all is said and done, you're going to have the car that you were looking for, and you're also going to have a great deal and great customer service. For 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr's built a reputation as the people you can count on. You've heard me say that a few times, but that's their motto, and it's their motto for a reason. Run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
I'm going to tell you a tale of two companies founded 25 years ago. The first, Pickup Outfitters, started as a little shop on Lake Erie Drive by a local company selling the truck bumpers they were making in Waco. Then, 6 years ago, new ownership took up the cause of battling vehicle nudity, vowing to fight until there were no more naked trucks in Central Texas. And so far, they estimate they've outfitted more than 40,000 trucks at Pickup Outfitters. Now, the second company's story is not as impressive. They too started 25 years ago, but didn't have the vision of Pickup Outfitters, and to date, they have not outfitted one single naked truck in 25 years. So we'll celebrate the 25th anniversary of Pickup Outfitters with money-saving specials and valuable prizes. The second company will support them too by giving away 25 one-month subscriptions to their online service called Netflix. Save and win the Pickup Outfitters 25th anniversary celebration through Thanksgiving. Details online at createacommotion.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by. Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Colin Hurley has committed to play football at LSU. 6'3", 213-pound quarterback from Trinity Christian in Jacksonville. Alabama, LSU, Florida, Georgia, Miami, Ohio State were others. He has committed to LSU, but also is reclassified to the 2024 class. Now, that means he's going to be there earlier, but, man, that's still 2 more football seasons from now.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Garrett. I mean, you're you followed recruiting for a long time, and you are an LSU fan. But while it's probably a cool piece of news, it's hard to get excited about a kid who is a sophomore right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think you offer kids way too early in recruiting. Like, I feel like, and obviously some players are going to stand out. And I'm not saying this kid isn't standing out, but ideally, I feel a lot more confident, especially now in the transfer portal era, where if I lock a kid down, maybe he's a junior or a senior, but a sophomore, I mean, who's to say, Alabama blows LSU out and then he, says, well, maybe I want to go over here, or he gets some NIL deal. I think there's so many factors right now that I'm not going to get excited about it until he's rocking purple and gold and slinging the rock. I can't get anticipated at this point.
2024.
I think Dylan Moses was a guy who started hearing about as like a 7th and 8th grader, and that was kind of disturbing, to be quite honest with you at the time. But that was like 5 or 6 years ago now, and he actually turned out to be pretty good. Like, he wasn't Vince Young ultimately, but he was pretty dang good, and hard to live up to that when you're an 8th grader getting national ESPN articles written about you because you were offered by Bama and LSU in middle school. But then again, there are also young guys who turn into Tate Martell. So who's to really say what he's going to be ultimately? But good on him to have that opportunity. And, 2 years will be here before we know it, quite frankly. It's not that far away. That'll be here before we know it. And, maybe we'll be talking about him quite a bit more in the future. That's the whole gamble in recruiting. But Brian Kelly's going to have them, loaded for bear for as long as he's there, and they're heading in a good direction right now. So nice pickup.
Alex Scarborough's story today on ESPN.com. SEC reviews field access rules after the Alabama-Tennessee issue. Less than a month after the player struck a fan, stormed the field at Tennessee, the SEC announced today that forming a working group to address fans' access to playing fields, courts, etc. The event security working group will review the updated field access Consider strategies to support effective crowd management for everyone for the purpose of enhancing safety for fans, teams, staff, officials. If you have 100,000 people or 75,000 people, or even at McLean Stadium with 45,000 people, and they want to come down in the field, unless you've got like a turret somewhere in the stadium, they're coming on the field. But
I mean, do
there
like
are
soccer
maybe
and have
some
like
ways,
barbed wire around
yeah,
the field or something. I mean, I would hate for America to dive that low that we'd have to actually think of that. And I don't think we're anywhere close to that. But there is no question that post-COVID, people feel like they have a lot more freedom than they, like as far as freedom as to do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it, and it's their right to be able to do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. And I don't know where the wires got all crossed up there. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just different ways of being raised or something. I don't know. I have no problem with field storming, but it does, when all of a sudden we're having incidents, you gotta address it and be smart about it. And we really are. We're like one thing away from going like tragedy happening. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And you already have a guy striking a girl. I mean, so. Yeah, it needs to be talked about and addressed, and people just need to behave their damn selves,
We've
man.
seen
Like, just
people
behave
die
yourself.
In those stormings in soccer, right? They lean against those fences.
That's like multiple murders come out of that base, or multiple deaths. We saw that like 3 weeks ago. There was a soccer that was a crushing thing, but that's all. That hasn't happened in the U.S. We've been very fortunate there. I think that's part design and just logistics and things, but yeah, thankfully that's not been the case. But it still is the case in like. Mexico or South America or places like that, people getting crushed in these stampede type situations.
Yeah, I also think that part of it is just, I get that you're enthusiastic and you're fans, but you only get one field storming a year. I think that as a fan base, you need to say, like, is this the game we're going to storm the field? Now, if you're Tennessee and Bama, look, if you're Tennessee and you've been at best average for 25 years since 24 years since T. Martin. So yeah, you get a field storming when you beat Alabama.
What if they played Georgia this weekend and they already stormed the field for Alabama?
Well, now look. Here's the thing: you're
number one.
You're number one. You can't. Listen, number one team. I'll tell you, number one teams are not allowed to storm anything in any sport. You're the number one team. Don't storm.
I think if it's a really unique situation, let's say it's like 1 versus 2, your arch rival. It's the kick six.
And you're normally not,
like that. I mean, I don't think anybody's thinking about whether or not they should. They're just reacting and they're running out on that damn field. If like a game like that, an ending like that against a team like that, I could see. But you're right, Paul. Outside of that, I don't want to see the number 5 team rushing the field like 3 times during the course of the year for beating a team that's ranked below them or right next. But a really unique situation, sure.
But I'm the old man. Get off my lawn. Let the college kids go fun.
It's not that big of a deal. It's just like you just see what's coming. Is inevitably there's going to be a situation. Then we're going to go like, I can't believe it happened. And it's
but you also have to be so.
All right, when Baylor beat Kansas State in 2010 to become bowl eligible for the first time in nearly 2 decades, they got on the field.
Yeah, but then you have to up your standard for getting on the field.
Then they beat Oklahoma in 2011 with RG3 on the throw to Terrence Williams.
Up your standard, okay? So you can't, like, every time you storm
TCU 61-58 3 years later.
Okay, again, you're upping your standard, right? Because that was big in the conference race, which they hadn't done. Since 1980, they'd not won their conference. So, again, you up your standard every time you rush the field, and then that's a good way to do it. I will say this, because if you do it all the time, then it loses its luster of that moment. And it becomes one of those things, and I'll say this, people in Waco don't know this because they don't live here, but sometimes we'll have like a musical artist play an event here, and then because they're gettable, like you'll go to different events and the same person is there over and over and over again, and you're like, well, why didn't you just call somebody else? That's the same cost, and they get stuck, and it's because they liked it that one time.
I don't think that you should have rushed to the field against Oklahoma last year. I thought that was pretty lame, and I think that certain fan bases suddenly feel like they just have. We just wanted to do it, but that Oklahoma game last year, that kick-started their little run to go to win a title and win a Sugar Bowl. But they had no business storming the field after that game. And then they delayed the game ending because they ran onto the field with 1 second left. And that's when Lincoln Riley got all ticked off and was, trying to make it more about what happened at the end than what actually happened during the game. And clearly his mind was elsewhere at that point in time anyways, as we learned, in a couple weeks after that game. But, yeah, when I started seeing people line up for that, it's like, I don't even remember what the rankings were, but I think Oklahoma was like number 10. And I understand Baylor hasn't beaten them that often, but, like, you're rushing the field on number 10, and you're ranked 2? I believe maybe they were ranked, maybe they weren't. Either way, like, that to me, yeah, that was just – they just wanted to. There wasn't really any logic behind it, I don't feel like.
All right, here's from what I teased before the last segment ended. Wade Barrow on the site putting up the board business action. Board of Regents at Baylor approved nearly $80 million for Phase 2 construction of the Fudge Football Development Center that will eventually house the day-to-day operations for football coaches and support staff and provide a distinct experience, of course, for the student athletes, and also then what they have now, the Hires building, which is mainly the athletics building. That now can then do more with what it does. The facility expected to be completed by the spring of 2024. So you have that now taking on the next phase. And then, of course, the pavilion, the basketball arena pavilion, just across from where we are on the Brazos River, will be, of course, opened about, was that same time?
Yeah.
About the same time. If I'm wrong on the dates, don't kill me.
I'll tell you what, taking the largest scholarship, chomping sport out of just a weight room for logistical purposes for the other teams is huge.
Well, I mean, when you look around, that indoor is badly in need of an upgrade. I mean, and it's fine for what it is. It serves its purpose, but I just feel like you walk in there and it's plain white walls and they're kind of dingy now at this point because it's been around. And it's like the same banners that you've seen over the last 10 years, which is fine, like your first round draft picks and stuff. But then go look at TCU or go look at, Texas, or go look at some of your competition, and there's a little bit of a difference there. So I think that at the time it was state of the art and it was all good, and you just spruce it up a little bit though, and I think it's kind of overdue for that. Now this, what you're talking about, is kind of like a whole brand new setup, and I feel like in the same vein that's also due. I mean, what they've had has worked well, but if you want to keep up with the Joneses and keep evolving and do all that, they need a full, bona fide, real deal football center. And a bunch of other teams have it, if not most of them, and they don't really have. They kind of have like some disjointed pieces that are kind of all together and connected, sort of, kind of. You know what I mean? It's not all one fluid ops center. It's like the indoors here, and there's the sidewalk, and then there's the locker room, and then there's the sidewalk to the fields, and there's the sidewalk to that, and to the bank, and it's all in the same place. It's just not fluid. And so, yeah, this will be that. It'll all be in one place, all be football to themselves, which is probably long overdue, and that'll be great.
All right, now, storming the field in a break, we come back with Richard Reese, high school coach, on just Richard Reese, not about their team this year. Belleville High School's 9-0. Storm the field, but we go back to having the mascots being able to be on the sidelines like Bevo and Ralphie. Mm-hmm. Bring the bear back for Baylor. Go ahead and storm the field. They let the mascot run.
That's
I think it's just bad. That's just
dark
bad
on your part, really.
It is. Yeah.
Very dark.
That's bad.
All right, we'll go.
PETA wants to talk with you after the show.
Listen,
you don't take care of them. Of course, Colorado wishes they could storm.
You
the
don't
field.
think Mike the Tiger, they're like the real Tiger from LSU,
that
is
would
not
be
sitting
awesome.
in that? It's like, look, I don't care who they are, but I would love to just get one, one.
That was Gladiator times when they used to do stuff like
Wouldn't
that.
Wouldn't that be great, though, to see how many could, like, if you want to storm the field, there's Mike the Tiger. Or Mikey the Tiger.
Look, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, believe me, there's enough people that are sauced up enough to be like, listen, I can beat the Tiger.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. They've wrestled gators. They'll wrestle a tiger.
Exactly. Do we have a super check?
Yeah. Concerned citizen Baylor should play one game per season at Phantom Warriors Stadium on Fort Hood. That would be awesome outreach. Now, the basketball team played an exhibition game at Fort Hood that was awesome to go to. It was really fun. Now, Phantom Warrior Stadium is not good for any athletic teams to play on.
Is that the one that was like the horse setup?
It's where they do a lot of events and I think even some military formations. Midway played a game whoever it was
There's
against
only
Colleen.
lights on one side.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I did sidelines for that. Midway was on the visiting sideline. Behind me was just a field of like grass that was on the other side of it, the runway for their base. And so like it was just a jet runway behind me and just like blowing grass in the wind behind a chain link fence. That was the visitor side with no stands that I remember.
Well, it was a great experience.
Yeah.
But it was the only time that-
but it's not for Baylor to host a football game. And the other part of that would be just a gobs and gobs of lost revenue that they would absolutely refuse to lose out on. You only get so many home games, and they're not going to trade off there.
They do tons of outreach with the military anyway, bringing them into Waco. So I don't think it. I think it would be a worse thing that they are already doing.
Yeah. All right.
I like the idea, though. It's just not the right setup
I
for
wish there was one. It'd be great. It would be fantastic to be a part of Fort Hood, and we used to be quite a bit. And then it's just hard to broadcast from there because they got everything blocked and shut down because of, they have to because of what's on the base. When we come back, he's the high school coach of Richard Reese, now the star freshman running back at Baylor. Grady Rowe used to coach here near Waco at Troy High School. How the Richard Reese career all was started, and a couple of neat little stories about Richard Reese, the person. That is next, and this is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, and North 19th Street, behind the bank. It's the weekend. If you're going out to a party, you're going to go tailgate somewhere, you're going to go hang out, you can go by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, go through their very speedy drive-thru and get everything taken care of, or just go in the store. They'll help you out finding anything you need. Best selection of Texas craft whiskeys, best selection of craft beers, and this is a fun time. This is fall. We got about another 3-4 weeks to start getting into some of those winter brews as well. So the roster will be getting churned when it comes to those craft beers as well at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Check out their cool promotions on Instagram. Plus, they're also on DoorDash, so you don't have to go to experience the great service of Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Just go on DoorDash, make your order, and they'll bring it to where you are. That's all the great things that they have at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, behind the bank. Order them on DoorDash.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot, and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must-like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
First down. Morton to the end zone. Well covered, and it's intercepted. Devin Lemire coming back the other way for the Bears.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments and financial advisor Chuck Verno, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Grady, you mentioned losing running backs. One of them, everyone is starting to get to know a little bit more. You've known about him. Richard Reese, the true freshman at Baylor, who's been able to step in. He was going to play, but has been able to step in because Baylor had a couple of guys out early as well. Did you ever expect he could step in like he has at Baylor and done what he's done as a true freshman in college football at a Power 5 school?
Well, I don't know that I knew he would get back-to-back games with 30 carries and carry the load like he has. I knew he was capable. I didn't know it would be done as quickly as it has been. Richard kind of went under the radar a little bit in recruiting until really late junior year and then early in his senior year, obviously. But I knew he was capable. I didn't think he would do it this quick, to be real honest.
Can you go back and you discussed how he was under the radar, and I remember his name because I cover high school football, and it's not just the Central Texas or East Texas area. I kind of know what's going on out there. Can you kind of go over that recruitment, and how did Baylor, and when did Baylor, and what was the difference in him going to Baylor?
Well, I think Baylor was one of the teams, obviously, that kind of kept their eyes on him early. Just having a relationship with some of those guys, and they just do a great job of everything. I think the world of that staff and those guys, but they always do a great job of coming by here. And I can't say that about everybody, but we do get good traffic. But Baylor just always coming by and keeping an eye out. And then just that offer, and they said, hey, we really, really like him. He fits what we do. And they just felt like that was just a great fit for them. And then through the recruitment, obviously, Richard thought it was a great fit too.
When you look at his height and size, and sometimes people do that too much. We see what Deuce Vaughn's doing at Kansas State, and I'm not trying to compare Richard to Deuce Vaughn, but somewhat diminutive and yet tougher than nails, wiry, finds a way to not get that clean hit on him. Was that the way he was at Belleville, or was it just pure he could just outrun anybody wherever he wanted to go?
Well, I think it was that combination. Most of the time, yeah, he was outrunning them. He hit the hole and he would outrun them. But when you really needed that and you were against a really good team, he always had that lean forward. Just like you said, never a real clean shot on Richard. He just natural instincts and vision that, that you're seeing now. We saw just early on and knew he was special.
For a school like Belleville, to have a young man step in as a freshman and play right away, basically as a varsity player at the high school level. What allowed that to happen? And did you know that when you watched him maybe playing junior high ball?
We did. We at the junior high level, we knew, his 8th grade year, as we watched him just really grow that 8th grade year into his freshman year. And even at that age, he was such a hard worker and just loved the game. And as we started talking, we're like, guys, I think we're probably going to have a freshman starting for us at running back here. It just really had a lot of talent, obviously, and just loved the game and loved everything about it, even embraced the grind as a freshman. And he was one of the freshmen that we said, hey, we want you with our varsity working out during the summer. And the way the kids just flocked to him, even as a freshman, was pretty neat to see.
Grady, what kind of person was he as he grew up? And as you said, he loved the grind. I mean, I don't care what classification it is. A freshman stepping in, especially at a place like you with all the lineage and history at Belleville, the young man, he seems to be kind of a quiet assassin in some ways.
You nailed it. Really quiet guy, humble guy. One of the best stories I can tell you about his character is several parents emailed me one morning, called me, talked to me about what they saw him do at a baseball game. Our student section at a baseball game, baseball's big here. Student section cheering at a baseball game, and he went to a kid that was off by himself and went and sat by him and talked to him and said, hey, I want you to come sit with me and join us in the student section. And that moved a lot of people, just kind of a kid that was sitting by himself, maybe a little bit of an outcast. Mm-hmm. And that's Richard. I mean, he fit in with every group there was, whether it was our Cowboys, whether it was our different types of kids. He fit in with every group. But I thought that story and what they said, that says a lot about his character, and that's him.
That's awesome. Did you ever once have to raise your voice at him?
Maybe just hurry up and get your rear back to the huddle so we can run another play, because he would hit the hole so hard and keep going. It was like, come on, Richard, I get back and get another rep in right here.
I'm not trying to compare him, because Earl Campbell was a thumper, and he also was an incredible he had all of it, that power, speed, whatever, coming out of John Tyler and then at UT and then even with the Oilers. But remember how Earl used to finish up a play, and it was like he was dead. And he'd slowly get up and barely make it back to the huddle, and then he'd run right over you or run right past you yet again. Do you remember those years with Earl?
Absolutely. Big Houston Oilers fan, and used to talk about exactly what Earl would do right there, what you're saying. Just a great kid. He watch him in the end zone. He's not one that's going to celebrate and say, me, me, me. He's all about the Baylor Bears and the team.
So, great story. Do you get to trade much text messages? Have you talked to him since the season began?
Absolutely. Weekly, if not a couple of times a week. He FaceTimed me a couple of nights ago, and cool. we just got to visit, and just the opportunity to see his face and visit with him a little bit and tell him how proud I am. I tell you what, I can't tell you how much I think of that kid and what type of character kid he is.
I'll share this when I got in touch with you about having you on about Belleville, and we're going to get back to that, this year's team and the history. You said, I can't talk enough about him. I can't wait to talk much about him when you're talking about Richard Reese. So do you remember the most carries he ever had in a game, just off the top of your head, an approximate number at Belleville?
It had to be 28 to 35, somewhere around in there. Yeah, there were times that he was definitely carrying the load for us.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season, and BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Sam Bradshaw of Sikkim365.com.
Sam Bradshaw, one of the nicest people we have every week on this show. Some of the other ones are just bad animals. Sam Bradshaw joins us, S11 on the site, also on Twitter. And Sam, Baylor and Oklahoma, tendencies, trends, etc., matchups. Let's start with Baylor. Same formula that they had against Texas Tech. Does that work again in Norman?
Thanks for having me on. And there's a lot of similarities in what Tech tried to do and what Oklahoma's going to do. Oklahoma's just a lot better running the ball. So it's going to be a bigger challenge for that Baylor defensive front. And Baylor put a lot of things on film, as Aranda mentioned, throughout the week. So Oklahoma's going to have a little bit better answer for it coming in. So how well they adjust to that is going to be very telling. I think this game, at least on the defensive side, comes down to no blown coverages. But more importantly, when you have your front five against five blockers, can you hold up in the run? Iowa State was able to do it, and they slowed that offense down to a crawl. if Baylor can do it, I really like their chances. And that's what they were able to do to Texas Tech throughout the entire first half.
Sam, what both offenses, Texas Tech and Oklahoma, run spread concept, go, Briles kind of offenses. What are the differences? Because Baylor really availed itself well last week against Texas Tech in that kind of offense, but Oklahoma's a different team.
Right. Texas Tech, they are an air raid team. So a lot of their passing concepts are more drop back concepts, and they'll get the ball out quick, and they'll definitely make use of a Briles-style screen game and some of the same running concepts, blocking scheme-wise. They'll do a little bit of that, but their downfield passing is a little more developed. But with Oklahoma, it's a lot more RPO and downhill run. And they've mixed in some things since the Briles days with a lot more post-wheel concepts and a few other crossing route concepts that really weren't a big focus during the big run that they had at Baylor when Levy was in Waco. And probably more so of the old school Briles scheme than what we saw from Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. So you're going to have a lot more wide splits, even though they will do some condensed formations and some formation into the boundary. But it's probably the closest thing to the old Baylor offense that Baylor will have faced since they faced Texas in 2016.
Sam, it's a bit off topic, but not really because we're talking about that offense. Have you watched much Tennessee, and would you have any way to compare it to what we watched for Waco in so long, other than it being pretty much the same thing? And just your thoughts on what Heupel and Tennessee are doing right now.
Well, what Heupel and Tennessee are doing, I haven't seen too much of Tennessee just with so much of the previews that I do for the site. I'm really focused on the Big 12. But if it's anything of what I saw from him at UCF, it's a lot of Briles-inspired stuff. Because, he did hire Levy for a while there at UCF, and he really reinvented himself after getting fired from the Oklahoma offensive coordinator position. And a lot of it was mimicking what he saw Baylor doing at the time. And so it would not shock me at all if you have a whole lot of carryover from what Baylor was doing in Tennessee, because it was certainly there at UCF.
Yeah, I was just curious how much you had seen. All right, so going back to last week, there was a lot to like, but what impressed you most?
What impressed me most defensively is that the coverage was sound. There weren't any major gaps. I mean, they had one seam route get like 30-something yards early in the game. But apart from that, there really weren't any major gaps in the pass coverage. And there was a stretch kind of in the middle of the second half where they weren't all that sound getting their run fits against Tech, and Tech was able to get the run game going a little bit against them. But really defensively, that's it, other than a couple late hit penalties. That's outstanding against an offense that had ripped Oklahoma State up and had also gone in and absolutely humiliated West Virginia. And that's an offense that converted fourth down after fourth down with, in my opinion, one of their less performing quarterbacks against Texas and beat Texas. So that was a decent team you just went out and beat. I mean, despite some turnovers, they gave a good NC State team a game. They were only put away by K-State late. And Baylor went in a very hyped environment and took control from them. And that was a solid Tech run defense that they ran all over.
Well, and that's my question about what we saw defensively with 8 TFLs, 6 sacks, 5 turnovers, and just constant, 6 passes defended. That's, I don't know if we could say we could expect that when the season began, but isn't that kind of what we thought we'd see more of?
To an extent, you'd think you'd see a little bit more of that. They did open up some of their pressure playbook a little bit more, but a lot of it was they're rushing 3 or 4, and those guys are getting pressure. Those guys are forcing the quarterback off his spot. And for a young guy like Morton, who had shown a lot of promise, that was something he really hadn't had to deal with a whole lot, because the one team with the comparable D-line he would have faced, Oklahoma State, was running very different coverages, which allowed him to kind of get the ball out a little quicker and not have to deal with it to the extent that he did against Baylor. So, I mean, that's a lot of what you're hoping to see, and you're hoping you can do the same thing against Oklahoma, because that offense is absolutely legit. As long as Dylan Gabriel's been in there, they've moved the ball well on everyone. Now, they had a game and a half there where he was out, and their offense slowed to an absolute halt. And they actually had to break out the wild bear that you saw against Texas and North Carolina back in 2015. That's what they basically ran against Texas for the vast majority of those plays in the Cotton Bowl. So with Dylan Gabriel behind center for them, they are a very different team. And only Iowa State's really been able to slow them down. And they did it by stopping the run with relatively few guys.
Sam, the pass rush was excellent last week. What do you attribute to the light coming on there?
Well, part of it is they were able to do it with limited guys against the Texas Tech offensive line that lost 3 of their best guys from last year. And while they plugged the holes, they really haven't been what anyone would consider a dominant unit. It's a solid enough unit. They can take advantage of you in the run game if you give them some numbers and you play a little sloppy. They can do a good enough job in protection to let them get the ball out quick. They were just not a match for Baylor. So how much of it is Texas Tech struggles against what Baylor tries to do, and how much is Baylor? I think the Oklahoma game will give us a pretty good idea of that.
How big of a loss is Drake Dabney, and your thoughts on Kelsey Johnson and how he can help offset some of that loss?
I have a lot of confidence in Kelsey Johnson. I think he's going to come in and play well, and schematically they'll be able to do a lot of what they were able to do with Drake. But anytime you lose an experienced, capable blocker and receiver with the size and strength that he has, but also the mobility he has, it hurts you. There's definitely going to be some drop-off, although I'm still confident they'll be able to move the ball on basically anybody they play.
Sam, where does the shape into Hal Presley throw and catch rank up there in the most impressive plays you've seen this season from this offense?
That was an incredible catch, and you've been waiting for somebody to step up at the outside receiver spot. You knew you had Monterey in the slot, and you knew that Gavin Holmes could play a little bit inside, a little bit outside, but to have Hal Presley also step up there, that was huge. And several guys came in and made some big plays because Tech, they will happily give you man coverage to try and disrupt you and get you off the field so their offense can go back, go for it on 4th down 100 times and never let you get the ball back until they've scored again. So being able to just break that man coverage and consistently do that to them where they get you to 3rd down, you convert that way, or you can do it on 4th, either way. And then they've got to go back and they've got to watch you run that toss play. They got to watch you run wide zone. And it was a missing piece that absolutely helped keep Tech off balance all night.
Sam, I asked Grayson earlier, and we've even asked a couple of others, but it appears as if Khalil Keith and his arrival, they missed him a great deal, even though others were trying to fill his spot when they could, but they seem to miss him. And how much do you see on tape him making a huge difference or not?
Khalil's been playing really well. I don't think he's back to what he was before the injury, but even what he is right now is absolutely good. And he's given in the offense a good shot in the arm. Gavin Byers has played well in his absence, but there's a clear upgrade here, and the offense is making a big benefit from it.
Hey, man, thank you very much, Sam Bradshaw. Enjoy the weekend, Sam. We appreciate it. Back to having you when we can on Fridays is always great. Sam Bradshaw, S11 on the site with us on 365 Sports. So I voted, and I think I know I can't give up my Heisman vote. I'm not going to give you who I voted for. We can discuss it, though. So the Maxwell Award, which is really a combination of like a bunch of offensive people, right? Is there a chance if you had your 3 votes right now, the Maxwell Award, that the Heisman Trophy winner would not be a part of those top 3?
I mean, usually there's some overlap there, but I mean, I like when they are at least different. But
no. If you had a vote for the Maxwell Award, and I'm fortunate, and I know you do.
I do.
You okay?
Yeah, I do.
Would it be surprising if your top 3 picks right now to get to the semifinalist list, if the top 3 did not include Bryce Young?
Yeah, I think I'd have to put him in. Maybe a little. The current Heisman Trophy winner. Not the Heisman. I thought you said meant the Heisman Trophy winner this year. The upcoming.
Your Maxwell Award, you pick 3, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Would you think it's fair to say it might not include 1, 2, and 3 on your voting, Bryce Young?
Yes. I think, I wouldn't put him number 3 right now. I wouldn't. I mean, I might put him number 4 or 5, but he missed a game. But there are guys like Hendon Hooker, Blake Corum, I don't know if I'd put him above
C.J. Stroud,
but C.J. Stroud, Bo Nix,
May?
Drake May, Drake May.
Craig, do you have a vote for the Maxwell?
No, how do you get one?
I just happened if someone asked me for it, but I'm going to get him your name, and because I had a chance to pull up.
Yeah, Maxwell and the Bednarik.
Bednarik is another one. Now the Bednarik is one.
So why do you ask that question?
Just curious, because that means the Heisman Trophy winner right now, if it was voting right now, and this was just to get to the semifinalist list. That doesn't mean that I don't know what they do after this one, because the award show's in about a month, maybe around a month. So it's just Bryce Young still having a pretty good year that missed that game, and then they have the loss. Would he be among your top 3 in the Maxwell Award voters? And Paul, you mentioned Corum at Michigan, Stroud, Ohio State, Hooker at Tennessee. It's just because he's still having a very good year, but there's others that have beaten him or are better than him as far as statistically right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to sit there and think about it a little bit. Off the top of my head, I wouldn't have a problem leaving him out, though. No, I don't think he's just been so good that you have to, or healthy enough that you have to put him on there because he won it last year. That means nothing to me that he's the defending winner.
Right.
Not that you're asking that, but like it really has. I'm sure for some people it might, but for me it means nothing. I could see it either way. Yeah.
And I mean, I was like, wait a minute. But there are, I think, right now, 3 to 6 names that could be right there in front of him. Now, on the Bednarik Award.
Why isn't Jalen Hyatt up for the Heisman?
Well, the Heisman's not there yet. The Heisman's not until that's
as
like
far as the list goes
week,
and all that.
These are.
Well, I didn't mean it as like why.
You cut them from this, then you cut them to semifinalists.
I think rephrase my question is why is he not getting more talk for the Heisman? I guess is what I'm asking. I
think I think he'll be part of the Maxwell Award discussion too. He's got 14 touchdowns, some crazy number. Now, who's the best defensive player you've seen in college football? And I know that we don't get to watch everybody, but Will Anderson came in the year, decorated, unbelievable year. I thought he was a top 3 vote for the Heisman. The Texas game, he was offsides. He's still a very disruptive player, 6 sacks, 38 tackles. But it's almost as if at times, like the A&M game, he made the hit on Ewers or whoever it was, Card. They still kicked the field goal. Would he be in your top 3 for Bednarik?
Oh, maybe third. I mean, he's 6 sacks through 8 games is pretty good. So he'd be up there. But there are I'd have to look everywhere else and really look at the numbers. Part of the thing I like about when you go to the Bednarik Award and look is it's easy to put in Bryce Anderson. It's easy to put in Jalen Carter from Georgia because they're big name dudes. But you do get to a chance to who's the dude from Boise State? They might have 19 sacks.
Yeah.
That's
Ivan
the dude.
Pace at Cincinnati's having a monster year.
Yeah, I think it's something you look at, and that's maybe a bit of an easier one for the other guys to break through on because defensive stacks are hard to rack up.
Drew Sanders at Arkansas has got a ton of stats. The kid at Kansas State's got a bunch of stats. The defensive lineman that looks like he looks the part of an NFL player. All right, Craig, anybody you've seen defensively that jumps out at you that you've seen at least play?
Yeah, there's plenty of guys that have jumped out. I mean, I think of a couple in the Big 12 alone with Felix Anudike-Uzomah, who you're talking about, Tyree Wilson at Tech. Now, he's not going to get any, that type of love because they're just not going to be good enough for that. But those are a couple guys I just think of off top in the Big 12. But, I mean, as far as voting on an award, if I were to vote on an award, I'd have to sit down and, actually compare.
Yep.
I'm not going to just off the top of my head it's this guy. I'd really – because I don't want to – be disrespectful and overlooking anybody because I'm not just going to go who are the top 4 teams and who are their best players, which is what I feel like it ultimately ends up being. I just have seen too many guys get disrespected come awards season that I would feel like I'm not really living up to having the power to have that vote if I, just completely dismissed somebody who's not getting the ESPN Sports Center love because he's not on a top 5 team. I'd have to dig into that.
There's a lot of players. It took me an hour in about 15 minutes to go through NCAA.com, ESPN, Katie Davis at North Texas is having to use. He's not going to get it.
I mean, if you want to do a show where we're like, hey, here's our awards at this point, then I'll do my homework and make sure that I've got my picks in a row. But yeah, off the top of my head, I mean, it's just too many guys.
Yeah.
Like there's like, I mean, I can think of like 10 names in my head right now that I wouldn't know how to separate them.
Point, and that's what I was bringing it up for, because it took me a long time to get to my top
For
three.
example, Ivan Pace Jr. from Cincinnati, who you brought up, he has 6 sacks. He also has, hold on, I have to go back to the stat, but he's also leading the country in tackles for loss. So even though he has 2 or 3 less sacks than the overall leader, he's also leading in tackles for loss. So, looking at that complete package of, are you not only dominating in one part of the game, but both parts of the game on defense, is the kind of stuff I like to look at, especially, when I've had votes for the Big 12, all conference team in the past. The first team is usually pretty obvious. It's when you get into the second team, you have to start really looking at those things. But
Anderson's got good numbers, but he's 38 tackles. It's not like he's going to be a tackle machine. He's had disruptive plays, but I just thought in the bigger games I have not seen much of him.
Even then, though, like the problem with those awards sometimes, though, is like you get to the offensive line or the defensive line, and people just vote for the familiar name.
Yeah,
they don't really look at it, and that's why you get like teams that aren't even that good, but their reputation is such, and they get it. Like, how do they have more postseason awards than the team that won 4 more games than they did? It's because it's the name. Recognition. And that's why, again, I go back to doing a disservice. I know there's a team I haven't watched enough of because nobody has enough time to watch everybody. And I don't care who they are. Nobody does. No, the most popular podcast in all the world, I can guarantee you they're reading some Cliff Notes somewhere or something, you just can't cover all those bases. So that's why I think I'd want to like build a list and then actually be able to dive into said list and weed in and out. But that's the fun of having a vote and the fun of getting other people's opinions on it.
So one year, in the Big 12, there was one good tight end, and I believe it was Grant Calcaterra from Oklahoma at the time.
He was good.
He was very good. He had stats. Then after that, there was nobody in the league that had any kind of discernible, like, it wasn't even a guy had 15 catches and 9 of them were touchdowns. So you'd be like, this guy just in the red zone's a monster. It was everybody was using their tight ends for blocking. So in order to gain the information I needed, because I was like, I don't know who to put the second. They're all about, I've seen them all play.
You called a coach.
I asked several different sports information directors to ask questions. I called a couple coaches and said, when you guys are preparing for a game, when you say, all right, watch out for this tight end, who is it? And they sent me, and I said, if you send me Grant Calcaterra, I don't need that. I need who is, this guy will block, this guy's fierce, he's going to knock you out. And then I got the 2 names that were the ones that were the other best 2.
You got to take time on it. It's not easy. All right, one quick note from YouTube from Chris Hamilton. You guys, I enjoy the show. Go.
For example, I think when you look at like the top 25 polls sometimes and you see like that person's not watching the games, that person, and then that's again, I think the power of having a vote. I think you should, and I know it's not easy to watch and have a thorough top 25 when you're sitting in a press box for 6 hours at a time, but yeah, that's kind of part of it too when I think of the power of the vote.
Chris Hamilton on the replay, I agree with you. Absolutely. You're just like, okay, just throw 5 names in there because they should be.
That's how Texas ends up ranked more often than not sometimes is because it's name brand,
I enjoy the show, different perspective than the SEC one I get in Alabama. I just don't think that TCU is better, though, than Alabama, even with a loss, but Alabama has been inconsistent. Appreciate that, Chris. And then
I want to follow up with what I've said last time, though. It's not even about that conversation. It's not even about, at least for me, whether TCU is better than Ohio State or Alabama or Clemson for that matter. That debate will rage on, and I don't think we'll have to have that debate because I do think TCU loses at some point, and we'll make it all a moot point. But it's just the difference in where they're treated right from the very get-go. That's the problem. Is if their name was different, they would not be in the position that they're in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's that they're already at a disadvantage.
It's not breaking news. Yeah, you're exactly right. From Dave he was on the chat room or the text line. The new Big 12 media contract pro rata clause is for Power 5 schools only yet. And this is just a note. Navy, Army, Boise State, and Tulane had 250,000 more viewers than Utah, Arizona State, Colorado, and Arizona in 2021. So just a thought. All right, thank you very much. We'll come back. Paul Catalina's Top 5 to wrap up the week on 365 Sports.
During Ram Power Days at Allen Samuels, our great selection of new cars and trucks come with amazing deals and competitive financing that makes you ask, why shop anywhere else? The new 2022 Ram trucks are designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. These legendary, award-winning trucks give you that first-class feel. Luxurious leather trim seating options, exceptional legroom and storage, plus surround view camera options you'd expect from a premium truck. Come see our selection today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 weekend storylines. We did Big 12 yesterday, so I thought I would do a bit of a national, although it slants a little SEC here. But
like everything else.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes you can't help it.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes you got to ride the wave. Number 5, not an SEC story, but does Penn State change QBs? Sean Clifford, a 6-year senior, really bad 4 turnovers in the last game. James Franklin has brought up the possibility of bringing in their 5-star freshman quarterback, Drew Aller. So we'll see. But if they change QBs, that's pretty telling for what they envision for the rest of the season. Look, they've already gotten whomped by Michigan and Ohio State. So Penn State's, next thing is to be on that second tier of the Big Ten. But if Sean Clifford's going to keep turning the ball over and they have to change, I wonder what that means for the rest of the Penn State season.
No, they won't, because we had this conversation in week 1, and we're now in November, and here he is. He's still there. So I say no. I think it's pretty clear that if they were that up for making a change, I think you probably would have done it earlier, right? I mean, I can also see where, no, you let your veteran kind of just make his way through. I mean, Sean Clifford, I think, gets a little bit of a bad rap. He is not a terrible quarterback by any means. He's definitely more than capable. With his play, you are going to get some mistakes, but no, I don't think yet. Now at this point, you say like, oh, now is the time, and especially not playing Indiana. Like if he goes out there and throws 6 picks and 2 pick sixes or what, against Indiana, who's awful, then sure. But I think that we won't be worrying too much about quarterback play this weekend.
Yeah, but it was all the buzz in State College this week about it. And the way that James Franklin answered the question kind of cracked the door open, as where before he has slammed it shut. Number 4, can LSU keep Bama off kilter? And when I say that's how they win this game. Bama wins when they are when they lose or almost lose. It's when a school like A&M kept them off kilter. They were not able to dictate the game how they wanted to. And because I don't think this is a game where you have, a classic LSU and classic Bama where they can both kind of dictate the game and whoever has the ball last wins. I think this is going to be about LSU muddying the water for Alabama and making them, exposing whatever weaknesses they have a little bit so that they can combat some of the depth that they don't have.
How did A&M almost beat them?
Same way.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what they have to do. So can they do it? And I do think Jaden Daniels is kind of the key to that. If they let him pick up, especially on like 3rd and 6 and passing downs, if they let him scramble for 11 yards and a first down, that's going to be the key. If they can stop him from running on 3rd downs when the receivers are covered, then LSU loses the game probably pretty handily. But if Daniels scrambles for first downs like he knows to do, then
maybe this is Will Anderson's big game.
Yeah,
maybe
so.
He gets disruptive.
Don't do that. Don't say that.
Who's y'all's favorite Daniels, Jalen, Jaden, or JT?
I'm going to go Jalen, Jaden, JT.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, okay.
Jaden.
Yeah, of course you say that. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm just expecting like playoff mode kind of mentality Alabama this weekend for some reason. I think they're going to be ready for this one. But, yeah, absolutely, LSU can keep them off kilter, yes.
Well, and the other thing is, I don't know, Nick Saban, he does better with the rat poison than anybody else. But if you're Alabama, you heard most of the country ask, why are you ranked above TCU? And if you're Alabama, you don't have the mindset of the rest of us. You're like, no, because we're Ala-bleeping-Bama, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something I think might be in their head as well. Number 3, which Notre Dame team shows up to play Clemson?
The one that still doesn't have an offense.
Exactly.
But same old Drew Pine, and the offense that's just kind of there that prevents them from being, more than they are at the moment. I think with a bit better offense and a bit better quarterback, they'd probably be very much in the grander discussion. But that's really holding Marcus Freeman and them back right now.
If you can throw some rocks in Clemson's path, they can trip up, but they've been playing so much better on offense down the stretch. But Clemson will struggle at times. DJU is good. He's not great. I mean, he has spectacular moments, but he kind of balances them out sometimes. So
his normal expectation, however, is also a lot higher than what we usually expect of most anybody else.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, but they also have Clemson has Will Shipley, who I think does not get talked about enough.
No.
Who is he?
A 5-star running back coming out of high school that's lived up to his billing.
Yeah, no, but who does he remind you of that's maybe played before? Anybody?
McCaffrey?
Yeah, I mean, because he has that. I mean, he can line him up anywhere and do.
I mean, I think our brains, I'm going to say, we automatically go towards white running backs, probably. But Christian McCaffrey, he's got some of that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly. I'm probably not the best comparison guy when it comes to that. But
sometimes when I watch him, he reminds me of Warwick Dunn.
Okay,
because he just was Warwick Dunn when he got the ball was all of a sudden at the line of scrimmage. they would run that direct snap to him, and he was like, he's at the line of scrimmage already. There was nobody, like, even if there's somebody back there, he's already at the first level. And then if he's already at the first level, then he's already going to be at the second level. So, yeah, he reminds me a little bit of work done.
Yeah, and I didn't mean that disrespectfully, just so you know. Yeah, like, because I see that comparison. But
what, because he's a white running back?
Yeah, we all kind of default to that sometimes.
Yeah,
Just that's like a white wide receiver is automatically like, he reminds me of, name Wes Welker. Or, it's like always that game. But no, I didn't mean it that way towards what he said, because I can see that.
He's 5'11", at least listed at 5'11". He just looks smaller, but that run against
if you saw him off the bus,
run he busted the game open, or
all
of them.
No.
Syracuse.
He had a 50-yard run. It may have been Syracuse.
Yeah. Syracuse. Yeah. Syracuse.
He's not an off the bus like, "Ooh, I'm intimidated by him" guy, but he will quickly let you know that this is the real deal coming at you.
No, and he's a total Clemson player, and I mean that in all the best ways. But I could not picture Will Shipley anywhere else. I would love to, but. Again,
well, that's the thing is, like, if DJU does like struggle or whatever, then they've got Tim to calm everything down, and that's important.
Yeah. Number 2, can Jimbo Fisher keep up his streak against the Gators? He's done great through 2 jobs against the Florida Gators. I think this might be where he gets tripped up, although the Gators are only 1 game better than A&M. They're finding their way in Billy Napier's system. They're also finding they're not very
What's
deep.
their record?
4-4.
Okay.
So this is 4-4 against 3-5. This is a game I'm sure that
disappointment bowl.
That everybody knew that Tennessee. Well, no, not even then. Before the season, you would have said that Tennessee, Georgia had a spot to be the CBS game this week, maybe, and then this was probably going to be it, right?
Yeah, either that or a primetime game. Yeah,
but now, I mean,
I think
should be on
Anthony
ESPN
Richardson
Plus.
got off to such a good start. Remember when he was Vince Young for like a week and a half? The second coming. Yeah, that was fun for like 10 days, but. Yeah, I mean, A&M's favored in this game, so I'll say yeah. I mean, it's in College Station as well. I think that A&M's just got such a salty defense, and, maybe they're onto something. Maybe, Wegman's going to be kind of the guy for them moving forward, but yeah, absolutely, Jimbo can keep it up.
Yeah. Hopefully he can just deal with all the yelling. Number 1, does UGA Tennessee winner...
By the way, someone said, Warwick Dunn? Whoa.
Yeah.
Lorenzo Booker, maybe.
I love them both.
Okay. All right.
But does the Georgia-Tennessee winner matter? Does it matter?
Yeah.
Does the loser matter then?
Okay, how many
teams?
In
what way?
In that whatever happens in this game, there's a good chance that it winds up not mattering in the grand scheme of things because they'll both be in the CFP.
Okay. Alabama's still part of this thing too now, and I don't think they're going to have 3 of the 4.
If Tennessee wins, Alabama's still alive?
Yeah.
Because
if
they lose, then that's a team in front of Bama that's beating them.
Like, I don't think you're going to have 2 teams out of the East, with one of them not have. I mean, I know that's happened, I think, in the Western Division, right, where we've had the runner-up or whatever in the playoff, but I don't think there's room. I just, unless Alabama loses, unexpectedly, I see the argument for it, but, with still like USC to be determined, and TCU still to be determined, and
Ohio State, Michigan.
So I think that it very much matters, and it very much matters.
But if Georgia-Tennessee's tight, Georgia goes on to beat whoever comes out of the West in the SEC championship, Tennessee still matters. They're still, as long as they don't hit oh my God, they lost to somebody else. If they win this weekend, that's wins against Alabama and Georgia. It's almost like barring some sort of collapse, no matter what they do in the SEC championship game, even if it's Alabama, they're almost like locked in.
Well, because they'd already have beaten them. So you could just say, well, but if Georgia wins, and I see where you're coming from.
I just wanted to pose the question.
But you can't, you just can't do that, man. Like, you can't, it has to matter. I mean, the way that it's currently set up in the future, this is where the non-expansion proponents come in and say this game won't matter as much. And I can totally understand that, but I'm not looking at it as far as like how many of these certain teams. I want to see, TCU, if they're unbeaten, have a chance at this thing, and they're not guaranteed to in this current setup because a group of guys with a printout think that, well, yeah, Tennessee's got a loss, but they're still better than TCU unbeaten. I mean, and we know that's how it can work. And so that's why I think the expansion is important, just to have teams have their chance to show, like, beyond just a committee's opinion that, we can beat these teams. You just have to give us a chance to beat these teams.
Yeah, I think they need to look at it like Monopoly. Like, if you land on a certain spot on the board, you go straight to jail, right? Do not pass go. They need to apply those same rules.
This game has to matter, and I think it absolutely does, no matter who wins, unless it's like 37-3 something, then someone's going to be in trouble. Dave Butts, Purdue, a Hall of Famer, college football player, played 16 years in the NFL, 2 Super Bowls with Washington, passed away. He was 72 years old. No immediate information on the cause of death. All right, Garrett, good luck to your Tigers this weekend.
Thank you. Go
Craig
Tigers.
Smoak, Paul Catalina, all of you in the chat room today, the questions in the text line, our sponsors who are amazing. We keep on rolling, and we'll do it again. Our pregame show tomorrow, 12 o'clock, Oklahoma, Baylor, right here on 365 Sports. The postgame after that here. And then Monday, Lord knows what we'll be talking about, but it will be college football. I'm David Smoak. Have a great night. Be careful. Good night on 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering